Good evening. Welcome to the regular board meeting for Romulus Community Schools. Today is Monday, September the 25th, 2023. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:06. Can we have roll call, please?
Laster,
Present.
Davis,
Here.
Evans,
Present.
Piles present, Kennard,
Present.
McCarthy,
Here.
Wester.
Present.
We have quorum.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oversight. Oh, it's over. Oh, it's usually over here. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Acceptance of the agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the September 25th, 23 meeting agenda as amended. Up under the superintendent's report, we need to add the ADA sidewalk compliance. Is there support?
Support.
Madam President, I'd also like to amend the agenda to reflect the change in meeting location.
Support. Roll call vote.
Kennard,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Piles, yes. Evans,
Yes.
Laster,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Wester.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public comment. Do we have any public comment, Madam Secretary?
We do. Sandy Tenney. Oh, you want to go ahead since you're there? You can go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
One second.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ms. Chaney, what is how do you say your name?
Josette.
Josette?
Yes.
Is it Chaney?
Chaney.
Chaney?
Chaney.
Okay. Josette Chaney.
Thank you.
Dr. Cheney.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Josette Chaney, as she just mentioned. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you guys. For a little bit of context, so I have my PhD in education and psychology. My work broadly looks at parents and teachers' beliefs about the causes of inequity in education and how those beliefs shape their interactions with youth. So I'm also a parent of two BART students, elementary school students, my two daughters, and my son, he was formerly a student at the middle school here. So my comment tonight is in regards to the attendance policy that we all recently received. And I just wanted to say a few things. So after reviewing a new policy, my immediate reaction is that the approach is punitive, displays a lack of care and concern on the part of the district, and has an underlying assumption that teachers or parents don't value their children's education. Three aspects of the policy in particular stood out to me as posing real dangers to the families of RCS, the students and families in this community, and those are: one, the consideration of excused and unexcused absences together, the quickness with which law enforcement can be involved, and an apparent disinterest in understanding the causes of absenteeism. So I'll say we are about a month into the school year, and one of my babies already has an absence, an excused absence due to illness. So for me personally, when my child is sick, I choose to keep my children at home, both with concern for their health, but also the health of the community. And however, with this new policy, it seems to encourage families to send their kids to school while they're sick, otherwise, in order to avoid potential penalties. So students are absent for a host of reasons, including illness, missing the bus with no other source of transportation, occasionally for academic events. I I would just like to encourage the district to investigate the causes of absenteeism within our district and consider an approach to chronic absenteeism that centers genuine care and concern for the RCS community, while also ensuring our children make it to school and receive the quality education they so well deserve. I am open to being a thinking partner in these efforts because I can think of many reasons why our students might be absent from school, and let me tell you, parents not caring about their children's education is not one of them. And with that, I also leave you with this one question for the developers of the policy. How were the perspectives and experiences of RCS families taken into consideration during the development of this policy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy Tenney.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank Paul Niedermeyer. It's so nice to see one of our alumni heading up a new program. Best of luck to you, Paul, and your staff. Thank you so much. Something to be proud of. Okay, speaking of proud, I was proud today. I was proud of Romulus Schools. I was at a store, and this lady walked up to me. She has a son, or I'm sorry, a nephew at Romulus High School. And, okay, I want to say, he's not a bad kid, not the best kid, you know. Tends to be truant and isn't real engaged. And so he saw his auntie over the weekend. He's like, Auntie, you gotta come up to the high school. And she's like, huh, what am I gonna bail you out for now? No, man, you gotta come up to the high school. You gotta see the media center. Now, I don't know if, if many of you were in the old media center. Whew. Okay, this new media center, I can't even imagine what it's going to finally look. But it sure looks nice now. And I can see from this young man's comments that it's simple things like that that change the outlook and the climate. And I want to thank you all for really coming through. Dr. Edmondson, and then Petty, he told me, he was like, Principal Petty, he said, I will have a new media center. He didn't lie. It's there. So please take the time sometime to stop up and see all the exciting things going on. Thank you.
Wendy Mitchell.
My name is Wendy Mitchell, and I'm a resident of Romulus, and I've been in Romulus for about 15 years from Saginaw, Michigan. So when I first moved here, of course, my district was Romulus, and I enrolled my son in the Romulus schools. Over time, it seemed like the life after high school wasn't addressed properly, so I took my son out of the Romulus schools. So now I have a teenage daughter that is enrolled currently in Romulus, and she made the decision to come to Romulus based on the sports program. When she got to Romulus, she was under the assumption that she would be able to continue her pursuit of life after high school. She's college bound, and when she was in the Wayne Westland schools, because that's where she transferred from, they have affiliation with a program with the Wayne Westland schools. It's a career tech program. I have a brochure here. If anybody's interested, I can bring it. You can pass it down. I brought a couple of brochures. You can look through it. So it offers different programs where your child can actually earn high school credits and actually college credits to pursue life after high school. So I'm going to give you an example for my daughter. She wants to do sports medicine after high school. So they have a whole program, and it benefits them with credits and training. And once they finish the program, they can get certified in whatever. If you look at the brochure, you'll see it's numerous programs. assumed Romulus also had this program, but they don't. So I am here hoping that you guys, the Romulus community, the board would consider getting an affiliation with Career Tech program at the Wayne Westland schools. Because, you know, it's a lot of kids that don't know what's out there after high school if they haven't been exposed. Coming from Saginaw, I'm an occupational therapist by trade. I didn't know anything about occupational therapy because nobody in my community was an occupational therapist. But my high school had a program like Career Tech. Of course, back then it was called something else. And that's when I was able to volunteer and earn credit and, you know, do an internship. And that's how I became an occupational therapist. I love my job, and I've been an occupational therapist for over 20 years. So with that being said, a lot of kids will go to college and not know what they want to do, and they waste time. They waste money, and they get discouraged, and they drop out. If a program like this is available to the students where they can understand what they are going to college for, it will help them be successful for life after high school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, that's all.
Next on the agenda, consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the September 25th, 2023 consent agenda as presented. Approval of the minutes for the Board of Education for August the 28th, 23, regular board meeting, September 11th, 2023, regular board meeting. Approval for bills for payment as submitted by Jewel Claire in the amount of $1,050,966.95. C, approval of the personnel actions as submitted by the Human Resources Director, Kevin Brock. Employment of Marilyn Watson, Secretary at Barth Elementary. Henry Bogle, art teacher at Wick. Raymond Holt Jr., custodian, and Amanda Wiggle, kindergarten teacher at Wick Elementary.
Support.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just skipped over three.
Yeah, we just go back.
We're gonna go back to the presentation. I'm sorry.
See, we're excited to go home.
It's been a long day. Please excuse me. Our first presentation is the senior internship presentation by Karina, Mrs. Coleman.
I think you and Miss Mitchell were working together, weren't you?
Apologize.
So for the board, this is something that I had discussed earlier late last year. Having an internship program, right out of what Ms. Mitchell just said, that, you know, what is the value of a diploma here? I mean, where do we give kids an opportunity to see what's out there? Where do we give kids an opportunity to cross things off and say, I don't like that, because they've tried it? So I have worked with Mrs. Coleman in another district, and we were able to get off an internship program, a senior internship program there for the 2 years, the 2 years that we worked together. And then I asked her, could she come in and do it here? So 2 years ago, we had gotten started, and then there was a slight hiccup. And then now we're back together, and I asked her to put together something really good for our seniors and potentially get some other kids involved and absolutely get our community engaged in what we're doing here. So, Mrs. Coleman.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Karina Coleman, and I am the Partnerships Coordinator here for Romulus Community Schools. I'm the Partnerships Coordinator here. I think I have a very good teacher voice, but apparently not. I will go pretty quickly, but at the end, if you have additional questions, feel free to ask. We are bringing an internship program back to Romulus Community Schools. Internship programs are not anything new. When I was in high school in Detroit, I did an internship and I worked at Henry Ford Hospital. I thought I wanted to be a doctor at the time. Romulus has a very long history of having internship programs, co-op programs, and CTE programs that we are bringing back. So on the screen here, you can see the multitude of benefits for students and employers.
Our vision is that students leave Romulus High School with a diploma and that the local community understands that they have learned soft skills, employability skills, and that they have had the opportunity to learn about various careers. And the larger vision is that the businesses within this community know that they can come to Romulus High School for students as well. So it would benefit the entire community. The details of what we're doing are here. It's an unpaid, non-CTE internship opportunity. We are returning several CTE programs to the district, but that is a little bit separate. This opportunity we're piloting right now this fall with 17 seniors, and it is linked to an English 12 class being taught by Dr. Pachota, one of the English teachers here. And by the spring, next spring, we'll have a full class of students. The students uniquely in our program only go out on Friday afternoons. There are a couple of reasons why we do it this way, but it makes it a little bit easier on businesses in the community. If you're a small business, if you're a business with 1 or 2 employees, asking for you to take a student for a few hours on Friday seems to be manageable. This is a photo of City of Romulus Chief of Staff, Julie Waitoko. She came and spoke with our students last week. She was an intern when she was at Romulus High School. She interned at City Hall, and now she is the Chief of Staff at City Hall. So I thought that story was really inspiring, and I wanted to make sure that our students heard her story and understood the significance of this program that they are in. We also went to the airport on this Friday, and that was a really, really cool tour. We got to go up into the tower at the very top. We got to see baggage claim. That was my favorite part because I was like, what is happening back here? But it was really cool. We talked to various people within the airport about their careers and how there are a multitude of careers at the airport. This gentleman in the white kind of Oxford shirt who talked to us about his job controlling the air traffic tower. He was, or he is, a graduate of Romulus High School. One of the other gentlemen, he was the general manager at one of the concessionaries at the airport, and he was a Romulus High School graduate. So the students really got to connect with the community and see that this airport right here in their backyard just hosted a multitude of jobs. So in the next few weeks, the students will start to leave out and go on their individual internships. The school district is providing transportation for them to get to their internship locations. That's a huge barrier for students. They will all get gray polo-style shirts. They will have food to take with them. There will be no barriers other than them showing up, washing their faces, and getting out the door. This is a program that I've ran several times in other districts, and I'm really excited to be doing it here at Romulus. The staff is amazing, and within only a few weeks of me being hired, we had a class, we had students, we had just buy-in from the community. Last thing I want to say is last week, the city, they invited me to come into one of their staff meetings and just talk with every single person on the staff within the city of Romulus about how our students can job shadow them and how they can impart their professional skills on our students. So the community is really behind this program, and I will be back to share more information once the pilot has ended. Any questions?
Yes, of course. Where are some of the places that students are going? And this was not rehearsed, so I really don't know.
Okay, so the placements are what I'm working on right now, and none of them are settled just yet. I'm literally in the portion of my day where I'm doing the puzzle piece thing. If you ever saw that movie, A Beautiful Mind, where it's like a big screen and then you're just placing the students, that's where I am. But City Hall is gonna take a lot of students. We're gonna have students that are gonna go with the Department of Public Works. We have a young man who's interested in real estate, and I think he's gonna job shadow the city assessor. We have a young woman who's interested in mortuary sciences, and so I'm going to try to get her placed at Crane Funeral Home. We have a couple of students interested in mechanical engineering. in industrial or electrical engineering, and so I'm gonna look at getting them placed at the airport. A student will definitely go to the library and support them in running their STEM and makerspace workshops. So this pilot has 17 students, and they honestly have a very limited amount of things that they want to do. A lot of them want to go into healthcare. A lot of them want to go into the traditional things that we're taught. And so that's why we're taking them to the airport and letting them meet different people within the city so that they can expand their horizons of what's out there right here in their community. And if you all have local businesses or small businesses or ideas, see me afterwards. I'll be here.
I
Any
have
other
a question.
questions? Go ahead.
I do have a question. Are they receiving credits of any sort? Is this going to affect their GPA?
So they do receive credits because they're enrolled in their English 12 class, and this is linked to that class. They get credit for turning in weekly timesheets. They have work-based learning assignments and things of that nature that are linked to them going out. And when they get that grade in that English 12 class, some of the work was from the internship component. I hope
Thank
that
you.
answers your question.
Question.
Yes.
So with the 17 students, how many of them will go to the same place?
That's a good question. Probably 2 to 3 at most. I have 2 students who I know are interested in like sports and athletic careers, and I'm gonna potentially put them at with the Parks and Rec or the Athletic Center, the Romulus Athletic Center. So it might be 2 to 3 at most. In the past, though, there can be as many as possible depending on how big the organization is. When I worked in IPSI, we would send a lot of students to St. Joe's Hospital because it's huge. So eventually I look at places like the airport as a space that I would like to send large groups of students to disperse into the various areas.
So for this year with the 17 students, will there be time to get them transported to 5 or more different locations, or are we gonna try and localize it for this year?
It's gonna be like a shuttle service where there are 3 distinct drop-off spots, and then students who drive, there are a few students who drive every day. Those students will have a little bit more flexibility in where I might send them.
And my last question is, how was this pilot program introduced to students, and what was the process of them saying they're interested, and then how did you select the 17?
Good question. When I came on board, the seniors had already selected their classes for their senior year, so we had to present it to them as a new opportunity, something they could opt into. In the future, we hope that they can just select it off as they choose their classes at the end of every year. So we found a group of students who are all on track for graduation. That was important for this pilot, was to figure out students whose schedules would not be too tricky. And so we selected from on-track seniors on track for graduation, and then we messaged them about the opportunity. We held a summer information session where I talked about the details of the program. The counselors supported in reaching out to students and sharing that this was an opportunity, and then they had a form where they could sign up and say, yes, I'm interested.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'd like to say, and I mean this, that when I was a student, I didn't know what a superintendent did. I had no clue. I knew what a principal did, and it wasn't until grad school that I actually realized that there was a finance department and a transportation, all those things that a school district has that kids are they don't know. They don't see you, they don't know, they don't put it together. So I think I said this to you before. Listen, I'd love to host a student just so that they know what my job is or what the job is, because I want kids to dream big, and I need to let them know that's big aspirins because you got big headaches, but it does pay well. But I would be able to tell them what goes on, that the things that we love about the job or things that I don't love about the job. But I would be glad to take on a student on a Friday, or one of us in our department or several of us in our department would love to be able to have a student so that we can lead them into this pathway.
And if anyone else has a job that they want a student to shadow them on, see me afterwards. We did do an exercise with the students at the beginning of the year where they had to rank various careers. And it was just really sad what they did for educators. They had us at the very bottom, and I was like, okay, you could move our salary up a little bit more. So they need to know a little bit more about what we do as well. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman.
Thank you.
Next, we have our TOP team in action presentation by Dr. Gardner.
It's my team there.
We are so excited to present to you all TOP in action. I want to say we've been in action since May or earlier, just working tirelessly and hard to ensure we're putting great systems in place and doing what's best for our students and staff here at Romulus Community Schools. I want to begin our presentation by starting with our mission. The TOP team, we collaboratively and collectively developed this mission. We had a retreat. We thought before we actually start implementing anything for the new year, it was important for us to come together as a team to learn about each other, have fun with each other, and also develop our mission. So every decision that we make is driven by this mission. We are the TOP team, and we are dedicated to collaborate with and strengthen the RCS instructional community as we strive to be a destination district. And so when we have our meetings, this is at the top of our agenda. When we meet with our principals and coordinators, this is at the top of our agenda to ensure that everyone knows our purpose and how we make decisions and how we move in this district. So now, the TOP team. I feel like I'm a sports announcer. Coming up first. So you know me. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Gardner, Jendai Gardner. I am the Director of Teaching, Learning, Professional Development. Next, we have in our audience our Administrative Assistant to Director and also the team for Teaching, Learning, Professional Development, Sarah Good. We'll have her stand.
Yay, Sarah, goody good.
Next, we have Janelle Edwards. She's our Supervisor of Professional Development. Next, we have Mrs. Akua Marshall. She's our Literacy and Social Studies Instructional Specialist. We then have Krista Saylor, our Mathematics and Science Instructional Specialist. And last, but certainly not least, we have Mr. Scott Rourke, our District Data Coach. And at this time, we're going to turn it over to Scott Rourke, who's going to talk about our District Continuous Improvement Plan.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. Must be a left-hand person. All right, good evening, board. In your folder, you have a one-page document that summarizes our school improvement, our district improvement plan. It's our MyKIP platform plan, so you can refer to that later on as I go through our presentation for our section of the district improvement plan. So our district improvement plan encompasses two areas for academics and systems. And within those areas, we are aimed at increasing student achievement by increasing instructional staff's capacity to improve student learning, all with the goal of delivering on our RCS vision of being a first high-performing urban school district in the United States. Our goals for part of this plan in those two areas of academics and systems are literacy in math and professional learning. Our literacy in math goals and our professional learning goals were developed in partnership with NDE and Wayne Risa. The reason why we are partnered with NDE, Michigan Department of Education, and Wayne Risa is that back in November, we were notified that we had 3 schools that were low-performing schools. So with that identification, NDE brought in support so that we can help improve those 3 schools that are part of that identification, but also improve all of our schools overall. So our goals for literacy in math have similar language. So the percentage of RCS full-year academic students scoring proficient or advanced on the state assessment in ELA or math will increase by June 30th, 2025. We have a stretch goal here. We're giving ourselves time to live out our plan, to live out our goal, and make sure that we have every opportunity to reaching that goal. It's important to note that in these goals, the math and the literacy goal, we are focusing on our full academic year students. The reason why we're focusing on that is that through our partnership liaison, he suggested that we focus on that subgroup of students because that's the group that we are held accountable to. So our school accountability ratings are based on full academic year students. And then the 2025, that as a stretch goal was also suggested by our liaison so that we would have that time to do the things that we want to put in place and make sure that we have every opportunity of reaching those goals. So our system goal is professional learning. Our system goal is the way that we operate as a district and what we're going to do to improve the things that we do day in and day out. And this involves all stakeholders for our students. This includes our instructional staff, our leadership, and you as the board as well. So our professional learning goal is the district will improve and implement a professional learning system to ensure that the staff and leadership will have the necessary knowledge, skills, and abilities to support the learning outcomes of students. So to make sure that we are hitting these goals, we have targets. And I'll read the targets, but I want to unpack them just so that we understand what this target is asking us to do or asking us to reach for. So our literacy goal is by June 30th, 2025, the percentage of Romulus full-year academic students scoring proficient or advanced on the state assessment for ELA will minimally increase by 15% on the 2022 assessment. So to unpack that, what we're saying is that based on that 2022 test year, we want to see a 15% increase from that year. So our math goal is kind of similar, just a different percentage. By June 30, 2025, the percentage of Romulus full academic year students, that accountability group, students scoring proficient or advanced on the state assessment in math will minimally increase by 30% on the 2022 state assessment. So again, unpacking that, what we're saying is that we want to see a 30% increase from the year 2022. So moving on to our professional learning goals. I have two goals on here that I wanted to highlight. Our first goal is, again, by 2025, the district will increase the level of implementation of professional learning communities as measured by the Hexagon implementation tool. The Michigan Department of Education School District Improvement Platform, MyKIP, has an implementation tool that it uses to monitor the implementation of a strategy of a plan. So that's the tool that we're using as well to say how well are the PLCs being implemented. So that last goal on there is the goal that really relates to our board members. So by June 30th, 2025, the majority of board members and superintendent will attend 7 of the Michigan Association for School Board trainings. So that goal, or that target, was added in there because our partnership liaison suggested that we put that in there to help develop the system, that system goal. So we added that in there so that it would show that everybody, all stakeholders in Romulus have their part in reaching our goals. So to reach those goals, we need strategies. We need ways of operating. So we have several strategies and activities that we are monitoring the implementation of those strategies. We have fidelity indicators that we want to see happen, and we have a process of monitoring the implementation. Our literacy in math, we have instructional leadership routines, guaranteed viable curriculum as our strategies for literacy in math. Then in our Title I buildings, because they have unique student needs, they also have to develop their own improvement strategies. Going on to our professional learning. Instructional leadership routines also falls under that system goal. We are using teacher collaborative routines, which is also called professional learning communities. Our early warning monitoring and intervention system, also known as EWIMS, this is specific to our partnership agreement schools, so our middle school, high school, and RBLC. We use this strategy as a way of identifying students who are off track and working with those students to get them back on track. And then finally, under that professional learning system goal, the Michigan Association of School Board Trainings, again, that brings the board members into the fold of our improvement plan. So that is our improvement plan, wrapping up what our goals are: literacy, mathematics, professional learning, our targets. We have specific targets for literacy, math, and our professional learning. And then also, each of those goals have a list of strategies and activities that help us drive that plan. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Janelle Edwards for our curriculum review.
Good evening.
Good evening.
RCS Schools uses the Michigan State Standards as our curriculum for pre-K through 12th grade. A comprehensive review of the curriculum materials used for our district curriculum was completed by our team. All subjects and grade levels are using the Michigan State Standards, and the curriculum materials used by each subject area are listed on the next slide. I'll have Apool Marshall go over that.
So when it comes to the ELA in the elementary, we are using collaborative classroom or collaborative literacy. And with that, we adopted it as a district. We have provided professional development, and we will continue to provide professional development throughout the year to make sure that our teachers are trained and supported throughout the school year. At the middle school level for literacy, we are using a system called Amplify. With Amplify, that was brought into the schools district about a year ago. The teachers did receive some professional development. However, we will continue with professional development with the Amplify as well. With high school, that is our next area. The ELA department at the high school level, they have been working with RESA, or they have worked with RESA in the past. They use various materials that coincide with the Michigan State Standards. But this year, we'll be doing a curriculum audit to see what our next steps will be with the high school language arts material. As for social studies, at the elementary level, there are various materials that are being used at the elementary level. Some social studies and science both are embedded in the literacy piece. This year, we'll be auditing that material to see how well it lines up with the state standards and what kind of next steps that we need to take. So we'll be doing a curriculum audit with the elementary. At the middle school level for social studies, the materials that's used there, it's called TCI. It's Teacher Curriculum Initiative. And what they use there, it's very interactive. But we still want to do with middle school all the way to high school, we would like to do a curriculum audit to see if those pieces are right for us and if they're lining up to our state standards. So these are all materials that are used that are lined up to the state standards, but we'll be doing curriculum review throughout the year. But we do make sure as Romulus Community Schools that the state standards are the driving force for social studies and language arts and for all of our materials. And as for the high school, the same thing there. They use various materials that go along with the state standards, but we'll be auditing with the teams at the high school and middle school and elementary to make sure whatever they're doing is in line to what the state is testing as well. So that's with our language arts and social studies, and we have Krista Saylor to talk a little bit more about the math and science.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. In mathematics, in elementary, we're using Bridges Mathematics, Bridges and Number Corners. It was adopted last year. We have provided some professional development, and we will continue to do so throughout the school year. In middle school and high school, they are both using Big Ideas Math, which also was adopted last year. We had some PD, which we'll talk about a little bit later this summer, and we will continue to do that throughout the school year. With science, we have various resources that align with the Michigan State standards, and we're having our schools use Mystery Science. This year, we're going to do a curriculum audit to determine if it aligns with our Michigan State standards. That's the thing that we want to continue to use. And then in middle school, both the 6th grade STEAM and SLI science classes are using MyStar, which lines up with the MSTEP and Michigan State standards directly. And then the 7th and 8th grade sciences are also using the Michigan State standards. We're going to do a curriculum audit to determine what we want to use going forward. The same thing with high school. High school right now, the chemistry and physics classes are using the modeling curriculum, and the biology is not rocket science. Everything is based on our Michigan State standards to make sure that our students are prepared and ready for testing coming up. It is. In your folders, it's hard to read on the screen, so we do have that in your packages. The curriculum selection process is here. We've listed it for you. So we start with assessing the needs of our district, our courses, and then we make a plan. We determine what our vision is. We vet it to make sure that it's aligned with what we're looking for. Then we run it as a pilot. Once we select it, then we install it. We implement and monitor, and then the cycle repeats. So as our needs change and things turn and change, we go back to this curriculum selection process to make sure that we are doing the best possible for our students. And now Ms. Marshall has a curriculum update.
So curriculum update. Personal finance at the high school graduation, high school level. Starting with this fall's 8th grade class, there is a mandate from the state of Michigan that our students must have a personal finance class before they graduate. We have been in partnership with Wayne Risa and other school districts to help, to collaborate pertaining this requirement. Also, the MDE will be working closely with the partners up to 2025. They will update their website, but we have been making sure we're up to date with the personal finance, and you'll be hearing more throughout the year about our updates and what we're doing moving forward with the financial literacy.
Okay, our district professional development plan. We created a calendar for professional development for the year. The calendar looks like this, but this is also included in your folder as well as on the district website. Our calendar was developed with the following things in mind. It is aligned to the goals in our MyKit plan. The calendar is intentional and data-driven. It was a collaborative effort with district staff. The calendar includes the state-required and REA contractual professional development hours, which is 43 hours. The PD will be evaluated for effectiveness on a continuous basis, and follow-up and ongoing support will be completed by our curriculum specialists. We will also have additional PD throughout the year on a monthly basis as well. How did we arrive at that? We did a needs assessment for each level, elementary, middle school, high school, and administrators. What you see highlighted here is the PD that is either scheduled already or has already been completed. This summer, we were able to use our TAG funds to offer several offerings for PD for all levels. Central office, our administrators, special education, RVLC, middle school, high school, adult education, our TLP team, all levels we were able to provide summer PD for. And these are just some highlights of our summer PD, SLI and STEAM, some highlights from our professional development there. We had some curriculum PD for teachers and administrators. There was PD for our administrators, the Impactful Leadership Conference, and Building a Better Assessment Future. We also support the 6th grade model. Ms. Marshall is going to let you know how.
The TLP, since we started, have been supporting the 6th grade model. So communication to parents, we assist with that. Interviewing staff to make sure we have the right people in the right places for both 6th grade here and over at the middle school as well for STEAM and SLI. We've worked on the school improvement plan for both places. It's actually one school improvement plan, but we've talked to both administrators in STEAM and SLI. We assisted with the budgeting process and budgeting for both of the programs and selection of materials. The materials were academic and also some non-academic selections of materials. This next example illustrates how the TLP supported. In order to make things happen, there's some things that happen behind the scenes. So we were able to recruit some students for our photo shoots. We were able to help with the uniform process. So that's just some of the ways that we help to support with the 6th grade model. And then next we have some highlights from the PD and some fall highlights.
We had a back-to-school PD day for the teachers. Coming back, they had 2 days of training, and we took some nice action shots here. We did some digital platform training for Big Ideas for the middle school and for the high school at their request. This is the first day of school, so we have some action shots from Barth and STEAM and WIC, just the energy, showing the energy throughout the days. We also did a smart board training for the STEAM teachers to help them increase their skills for the T in the STEAM technology. And then we also had our open houses for both SLI, which happened at the very beginning of fall, and then we had an open house for STEAM on September 12th. We wanted to give them the opportunity, the families, to come and see all the renovations because they didn't get to see it before school started. And then we did the relaunch of our district-wide PLCs, Professional Learning Communities, and that started on September 13th. These are a few action shots here, people working diligently. And then we brought back the Curriculum Council. And the Curriculum Council has 3 different portions. The first one is a school improvement plan, the second one is curriculum, and the last one is our PLCs. We had a really good turnout. A lot of people felt that they learned a lot of good information. I'm going to pass this back to Dr. Gardner.
All right, hello again. So one thing I'm very intentional about in our team is making sure we don't have a ton of meetings. Because as you all know, if you're in a meeting, you can't get work done. So when we first met, we noticed we had at least 8 to 9 different meetings going on in the district. And we said we cannot move forward that way. We cannot be productive that way. So we had a pretty long meeting. I think it was Sarah's first meeting with us. We took a very long time to arrive to this plan here. We went from 9 monthly meetings, sometimes weekly meetings, to just 5. What we did is consolidate some things that made sense to put together, as opposed to doing the same thing in a different way. We have to change it up. And I think it's going really well. I think the staff, I'm sure the administrators, appreciate how we have minimized and condensed those meetings into just the 5. And again, it's about collaboration. Each of these are a collaborative opportunity for all the staff. So you have it here for all the meetings that happen throughout the school year. So you've heard a lot. And again, TOP, we've been at work nonstop. I do recommend and also encourage breaks and self-care, taken after our superintendent, so I do encourage that, right team? Yes. So in all that we do, we also know, we always say inspect what we expect in the schools. But guess what? We do the same for ourselves. Because you can have a lot of, you can have a lot of initiatives, a lot of work, but it can lead to nothing. So we must pause, look at the data, look at our agreement. Are we aligned to it? Excuse me. Let me get some water. Hold on, please. Water break. Let's try that again. All right. So again, not only do we expect in the schools, but we also do it for ourselves. It's about self-reflection, to pause and tweak. And so how do we do that? In 3 ways. Number one, as our superintendent always says, and I truly believe it, data don't lie. We must see improvements in our data. Now, I'm going to be transparent here. We would love to see all of our schools at the top level reaching all of our goals, just the best district in the state and beyond. That's not going to happen overnight. We do want to see some growth. There's too many barriers to say the TOP team must improve all of our schools by the end of this year. So I want to say that and name it. We definitely expect some growth, but it must make sense. And we do believe our plan will help us to see that growth. Next, our partnership agreement. We have identified strategies and systems that Scott went over in very detailed. We must ensure that we're in line to what we said we're going to do. So again, that's pausing, tweaking when necessary. And lastly, the data is awesome, the agreement is awesome, but if our teachers, our principals, and other staff are not feeling like we're awesome, it's not gonna help. So we must have surveys. We must get that data to tell us what is also called as street data. How is it going into schools? It sounds great on paper, but how is it actually being implemented in the schools? Does it make sense? And if it doesn't, give us the feedback. We will pause, we will tweak, and we will change when necessary. So these are the 3 ways that we're gonna measure the success of the TOP team, and we're gonna provide updates on a regular basis. We already have dates identified. We're gonna come before the board and share the progress of those items. Lastly, thankful because my voice is going away again. The last thing, so I mentioned we're gonna have regular presentations. So the next one, we're gonna have data. At that time, we've had our NWA completed for fall, and we'll also have an M-STEP data update for the board. So I know it was asked in a previous board meeting, when we're gonna get the data, when we're gonna see the TOP team present, or we're gonna see a lot of us. And so I wanna make sure you know the next opportunity will be at the October 23rd board meeting, if approved, to present on our data, to show what progress we're gonna make, but also understanding this is our baseline data. So this data you'll share or see will be based on our baseline data, and then we'll track it over time by implementing these strategies and see if we're making that growth and tweaking when necessary. And I think this is my last slide, which is good. Thank you. And I'll pause. That's the end. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner and the TLP team for all your hard work and dedication. Do we have any questions from the board?
I do have a question, please. So it says that the board must take 4 classes by June of this coming year. And I am asking if the MEA has suggested out of these 7 classes, have they given the list of 7 classes so that we know what classes they recommend for the board?
So my understanding is that it is up to the board and the superintendent to decide. Like, there's nothing they're saying, you must take this course, and this course. My understanding is they're saying, as long as you're actually having a training provided by MASB, then you're actually adhering to that strategy that's in our partnership agreement. So there's no
So it
requirement.
doesn't have to be data classes, it doesn't have to,
No.
It's
You all have
the classes that we have now. We
I'm
had that,
sorry?
it's the class, the things that we're doing, the workshops that we're doing, they count. We had that conversation with Paul from MDE, and I was telling him that we were having these workshops, and he said, that counts. That counts. You want to do that, you automatically will get a check. And I said, to my knowledge, I thought we had 7 of them. And so I told them that there were 7 of them, and he said, that's perfect. And then it was on governance, all the things that we were doing. He said, that counts for you.
so it's not the
No, we don't.
CBA classes that are
No,
being
no,
offered
no,
by?
no,
Okay,
no,
very good.
no.
I just want to make that
No, I
clear.
think that's a great question. But you know, I'm going to verify it
We are
again.
tracking
just in
it.
case.
Thank you for asking that question, Trustee
Thank you.
Evans.
I was going to offer, we are tracking it. I know Sarah Good has a spreadsheet of all of the trainings you've already attended, because we must provide that to MDE to show we're actually doing what we said we're going to do. So great question, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Madam President.
Oh, go ahead.
You got it.
Vice President.
I respect my elders.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to thank you very much for the presentation today. And I also want the board to know that we got an email from the TLP team a while back to attend one of their sessions, and it was attended last week by myself and Trustee Evans on the Curriculum Council. And I just want you guys to know that that information that they provided at that particular meeting was very informative, and it gave us some additional understanding at that time. So when you were speaking today, I was able to connect the dots even more so to drill down. Mr. Rourke, I just think you are phenomenal with your data presentation. At that particular meeting, the questions that I had was answered. Okay, and so I'm extending to the board members, and whenever you have the opportunity, they say they're going to be doing the invites more often. We want to thank you for that. Of course, we're going to let the superintendent know when we attend those. So you know, I had to put that in there, okay, to inform him
other
of
than
that.
accepting the invitation?
But he was in the email, but, you know, but we're going to make sure we're going to do some different things. But that was very, very eventful. One of the things that I did recognize was the engagement with the staff, your team with the staff, and the collaboration and the efforts that was put into that, and the energy that I saw from the staff. And I just want the board to know that they were very engaged, very excited, some of those from what I gathered overall, and that information, so that collaboration was very good. And looking at it from this set of eyes and observing, because that's what I was there for, was to observe and to come back and share this with my rest of the board and trustees. So thank you very much. And we look forward to additional information and things as you bring it back to us. Thank you.
Madam VP?
Thank you, TOP team. Will we also use common assessments to track data as far as student proficiency as it lines up with the state standards? And if so, how often will we use those common assessments?
Yep. Common assessments are one of the tools that we're using to assess our goals and our targets. So that is in our plan as one of our measurements. We have to build in some time to build our common assessments. In some areas, we have common assessments which are standard-based, state standard-based. They're developed, ready to be implemented throughout the year. And then other areas, as you've heard Ms. Marshall explain about our curriculum development, those assessments need to be developed as those curriculum pieces are rolled out.
Thank you. You talking? Oh, go ahead.
I'm not talking.
Okay. I didn't want to cut you off because I have one more question. I promise I'm going to
I
get
didn't
you
say
out of
anything.
here.
I didn't say, look.
All right.
My fantasy chick's
I'm
lost.
not being
Yeah.
long-winded like a pastor, I promise. So lastly, my feathers get ruffled anytime anyone talks about our teachers at Romulus and our students, because I feel that they are the best of the best, hands down. I know how hard they work. I am a little concerned that we're using various material for curriculum. I believe your test scores are kind of like a teacher's report card, and I want to make sure our teachers are in the best position possible to drive the best results. I see that we will be doing a curriculum audit, but the test scores seem to be an indication of where we are dropping the line at, or the ball, as far as our curriculum and students' proficiency.
Is there a question?
Not a question, but I
Okay.
just want to, it's a concern that we are using those various materials for curriculum, and I just want to make sure our teachers are in the best position to provide quality instruction to our students and material.
You or me?
I can go first.
Okay.
Most definitely. And so, again, that goes back to the research. If the teachers don't have what they need, if they're not high quality, you cannot impact the students in front of you. And so that's why we have coaches here, our instructional specialists, and also we have COSA specialists in our district too, to support those teachers, to model lessons for them, to ensure they know the curriculum. PD, that is huge. In order to build capacity in our teachers, you must have professional development. That's one thing we heard over and over again. Dr. Gardner and team, we need PD. And as you saw, we have a plethora that was already completed since just August. And so I think that is huge. That is number one of our radar, next to our principals, Because the new data shares that having that top principal and making sure you build capacity in them is now the leading #1 factor of a high-performing school. And so just know that we are very intentional about supporting our teachers, also holding them accountable, and working collectively with our principals to ensure they're also holding them accountable, but also making sure they have the support. For students, we have interventionists in all of our elementary schools that's gonna work 100% of the time with those students in regards to making sure they know the curriculum, get intervention and support. So we have a pretty intentional plan. The POCs is gonna be huge as well, because you have a community. So it's not just me by myself as a teacher. I taught for 10 years. Sometimes I was in my room, because I was one of the best. And so I was doing what I need to do in the classroom. But sometimes you have to come to a community and share ideas and best practices. Why is your day looking like that? What are you doing in your classroom that's great? And sharing those ideas, learning from each other. So I can go on and on, but I'm not, because I know we are way over time. But we also have a very intentional plan. I'll have Janelle add to it.
And just to speak to the various curriculums, as Dr. Gardner stated, in the PLC, as part of those teams, they are collaborating. They're looking at those state standards and talking about the different selection of materials that they're using to teach those standards as well, to get a uniform way that we're teaching as well.
Thank you.
I do have one more question. Is this the same curriculum that the PD was taught last year during the school year? Is it the same curriculum?
Collaborative classroom?
Yeah.
Yes, that is the same. I know when I joined Romulus Community Schools, that's the PD I came up when they had collaborative classroom. PD, is that what you're referring to, or other PD? Last school year?
Well, we started with we purchased a new curriculum school year last year, and PD was being developed during that time.
Yes.
Is this a continuation of that PD?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's as a result of our curriculum audit to determine, well, actually, we had 2 curriculums, but actually one was not being utilized in the district. After we did our collecting data and to see what actually was happening in those classrooms, and we landed based on what made sense for our district with collaborative classroom. And they've already had training, but I believe this year we're really launching it accurately and having really robust training for our teachers and administrators.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Edmondson, did you want to add to it? Oh,
So, thank you for all of this. This is great. And Mr. Rourke, we always love your data. And we do. I mean, and we're able to see a lot of things from it. A question, you mentioned EWIMS and being able to identify early warning signs. Have we looked at the data from students, the existing data, and identified already at the beginning of this year early warning signs and working with improvement plans for students or how to reach them?
So we actually pull our EWIMS data at the very end of the school year and look at what are some of the risk indicators that are popping up and some of the things that are really troublesome. And then those principals in those buildings plan over the summer how they're going to address that at the very beginning of the school year. So we start the year prior at identifying students who are off track and coming up with plans to address that at the beginning of the school year. And then as the year progresses, once we get to our EWIMS marking periods, then we aggregate that data again to look at what are the risk indicators telling us now.
Thank you. So we are, yes, looking at that now and not going to wait and measure it later. Thank
Yeah,
you.
It's a continuous process.
And are we aligning that information with the students who had a lot of absences last year? Are we because we hear about attendance and yeah, it's important, but are we digging down into why students are missing? Have we identified those students that have excessive absences and reached out to them, and so that we're not just working all these systems in silos, but we're building one effective system?
Attendance has always been part of our early warning system, but now with our community liaisons, that will help to support that further investigation on what are the root causes for absenteeism and work with our community liaisons to developing implementation plans for that.
Okay, and I know we have our goals. It's a RCS goal. Are we just looking at proficiency district-wide, or is that further broken down by building or grade level?
So each building has its own targets. The goals are district-wide. We're all under the same goals. In that target area, each building has its specific targets based on their 2022 performance.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask, but I don't want it now, but we see where we want to get to. At some point, can the board please have where we are now so we know what that 2-year goal, that 30% looks like?
Yeah, so later in October, we find out who our full academic year students are. And
Okay.
then NDE releases that accountability report card. That's when we'll find out where we're at right now.
Okay, and then about the PD, my question is, the district professional development plan is intentional and data-driven. How are we measuring student engagement into that? Because, and how are we measuring what is learned in PD and what outcomes are expected so that we can reconfigure because we've all been to great PDs, but then it's hard to translate that in the classroom. So how is student engagement being factored into this to get our students more engaged in their own learning process?
So as we stated before, we're going to inspect what we expect. So we are constantly in the buildings. We are creating monitoring tools to be able to measure that what they learned in PD is absolutely being implemented in the classroom.
So I have one more question, I'm sorry. As I'm
Answer
looking
this-
at the
Can I answer the
goals-
question
I'm
about
sorry.
student engagement? So another piece with our instructional specialists, as they go into the classrooms and they monitor instruction, student engagement is key. So we have a tool, and on that tool is say, are students engaged? And not just students, are all students engaged? So as we're going to our schools, we have that checklist or that rubric we use, and then we meet with the teachers and administrators, we have a conversation about it. You know, out of your 25 students, only 20 were engaged. What about the other 5? Like, that's a conversation. They can say, oh, I didn't notice that. Well, we noticed it, so how are we gonna address it? And so using that data to ensure that we know, okay, that all students have an opportunity to learn, they must all be engaged. If they're not engaged, what are the next steps to make sure you're engaged next time? So I just wanna address that's something we're looking for with a keen eye, because whoever's doing the most work, that's who's learning. So teachers doing all the work, they're the one learning, the students are not learning. So they must be engaged to ensure they're getting the actual curriculum and the lessons being taught in that day.
And are we getting feedback from students about what they think about their class and what they need in their classes and what supports they feel are missing?
I would say right now, we don't have a tool in place, but I think that's a great idea to add that to collecting that data from the students. I know at the school level, they collect data, and that could be formal or informal. But I think having those conversations, I know when I was in the classroom in my previous role, when I went and monitored, I sat next to the student. I had conversations with the student, like, okay, how's the lesson going? Looking over shoulders. So it may not be such a formal observation tool or a formal survey. Sometimes you get the best results and feedback from students when it's kind of off the cuff.
Right.
They'll keep it real with you.
Yeah,
so that's
they
something
will.
that we'll
And that's why I
continue
was asking, is because we can do PD and we can learn the way we learn and teach the way we learn, but really the only way to be effective is to meet students where they are and teach the way they learn while recognizing that they don't all learn the same way.
I agree. Thank you. I'm sorry, Board Member Ebbets had a question?
I do have one question. As I'm looking at these, at the bottom of the second page, it shows the interim and end target percentages. One of our elementaries is in single digit, and one of our elementaries is at 36.7. How do we hold one building, I'm sorry, 31.1. How do we hold one building at such high requirements and another building at lower?
So those goals, those targets, are based on their 2022 baseline data. So as we saw in the targets, each school has to increase by 15% from that 2022 baseline. And then in math, it's a 30% increase. So wherever that school started at, say, in 2022, it's 15%, 30% increase.
So
Brought me
all,
back
so they're all the same increase requirement, so the
Correct.
single digit
Percentage.
still is the 30%.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for this presentation.
Welcome. Thank you.
We look
I
forward to
was-
seeing you in October.
I was just going to say,
sorry.
thank you, and to trustee Ebbets, her first question is something about teachers, and I'm happy we have a department. That's all I have to say. I'm happy that we have a department that we can actually go to now, and we can hold people accountable, and I see every day what you do, and I continue to say that. Every day, I see what you do, and I know we work hard, we're all on the same team, but we actually have not one member to take care of the entire district. We have a team of people. And I want to thank the board for that, because that was something that I asked for. And I won't go into the whole story, but you also have to find people that are passionate about what they do. So, I don't know who that is, but thank you. I'll take it clapping for me. But the bottom line is, for Dr. Gardner and I sat down, and she didn't know what questions I was going to hit her with, but I hit her hard, and she came back and was was more impressive, because I thought I knew what her passion was. And it's data. If you know about Dr. Gardner, she knows two things. I don't know. Data, research, and the question is why. Got it. But thank you. And if we ever have any questions about getting more data, Dr. Cheney, you're hired. You got it. We want our own. We want our own. Oh, I know you do. I already know. You're hired. We'll be talking soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have our bond update presentation by Jesse Nelson from Baker Tilly.
Good evening, Board of Education. As you may or may not know, we've had some early conversations in cabinet and I think at the board table regarding the potentiality of a upcoming bond for our school district. And under Dr. Edmondson's leadership, he asked me to look into having somebody to come speak to the board tonight regarding our bond situation, the potential of a bond in the future. There's no decisions being made tonight, just all information. Ask as many questions as you can. We have Jesse Nelson, who is an accountant. He has every accountant joke that I can think of. I just met him today, but we spoke on the phone last week. I reached out to several colleagues. There are three main firms I think that districts use. PFM is one, Baker Tilly, which is here, and the Baird Group is another group that we do engage with. All of my colleagues that I had reached out to, sort of just an informal census, offered up Baker Tilly as one company that is more creative in their thought process on how to utilize bond dollars should this board decide to move forward with a bond project. So I introduce you Jesse Nelson.
No, thank you very much in having me for this evening. You can imagine I was excited about all the math words. If you look at the accounting industry, we need a lot more folks to come into it, to do the numbers, to do these types of things, and to see the educational things you're going after from an accountant is very exciting just for me to attend the meeting nights. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just as Kevin said, tonight's just an informational meeting only. Want to get some good information to the board, and then there's a lot of exciting opportunities for the school district. Again, I'm a certified public accountant and partner with Baker Tilly. We work with school districts on capital improvement planning, property tax calculations, and then bond issuance, basically coming up with different ideas to finance capital improvements for schools around the state. So what in the presentation tonight is I'm just going to give you an overview of what a voted bond issue is in Michigan. So if a community member walked up to you and said, you know, what is a voted bond issue? How does that work in Michigan as far as a school district? And I'll provide you with more information that's more specific to this school district, and then also the process, and then just as Kevin said, any questions you have in between, happy to answer those, okay? So we have it up on the screen, and then you've also got a paper copy in front of you if that's a little bit easier. And then on the left-hand side, you can see we have an overview of what a school district bond issue is. So basically, a school district voted bond issue is you are asking a question to the community. And that question really has about three main parts. The first item is you are setting a not-to-exceed bond amount of bonds that you can issue for capital improvement purposes. So number one, hey, community, we'd like to not to exceed 30 million, 20 million, 50 million, whatever it is, you're setting that ceiling in that question. And then the second one, or the second part of it that's important, that is you're approving what the allowable expenditures of those bond proceeds are. So you're gonna have, it's not to exceed dollar amount, and then there's a paragraph, and in that paragraph, it's gonna say athletics, bus purchases, refurbishments, parking lots, anything that you intend to do with that money. So community, we're asking for not to exceed dollar amount of X, and we'd like to be able to use the money for Y. And there's a lot of strategic planning that you as a board and a community do, because if you don't put that language in the paragraph, then we can't do those improvements. So a project comes in under budget and we'd like to do that parking lot, but we didn't put parking lots in the ballot language. Well, the community didn't approve that item. Unfortunately, we can't make that shift. So if you pursue this and you go through your capital planning processes, it's good to keep those things in mind as to what you'd like to do, and then if you could tackle some other projects, what would be available. So again, overall, you're asking for not to exceed dollar amount, and then you're asking the community to approve what you intend to do with those dollars. To the right of that is the bonds are repaid from a bond millage rate. And we have a bond millage rate here that we're gonna see here at Romulus Schools, and that is a dedicated property tax millage rate that every year gets levied on the property taxes. That money comes in and it solely remakes the bond payment. Doesn't interact with the general fund, doesn't interact with any type of operations of the school district. It's solely approved to make the bond payments. And so when the community votes yes on your bond proposal, they are accepting you as the school district to levy whatever bond millage rate is necessary to make that bond payment on an annual basis. Now the bond millage rate is an estimated figure. Once the community approves the bond election, you as the school district must levy whatever bond payments necessary to make that payment each year. So we provide estimates to the community that if you approve X, the estimated bond millage rate is Y. But the community is really approving the not to exceed dollar amount and uses, and then you as the district must levy the property tax rate to repay those bonds. Okay? Now to the middle side of it is there's a multiple bond series option. And this is a strategy that a lot of school districts have been using. I'd say it's become more popular about the last 5-6 years. And what it's saying is if you have one election, and let's say for $30 million, you don't then have to go out and immediately issue a $30 million bond. You could split it into one sale for $15 million, you could and then another 15. You could split it however you want to. So in one election, you could get a multiple year capital plan approved over a longer period of time because you're able to issue those bonds in stages. There's a couple advantages. Number one, we don't take on all the debt at once, so we're not paying as much interest expense up front. Maybe we have an improvement like a roof that we know we're gonna need in 3 years, so we can get it approved in this election, but we're not gonna finance it down the road, so we're not gonna pay interest until we need to do that improvement. A lot of schools has also put their bus and technology replacement programs in their capital plan, so they have bond sales out to replace all of their technology if they want to do that. So it all just depends on what you want to accomplish at your district, whether how many bond sales, the period of time, the dollar amounts, whatever you're trying to put that into. But it's been a nice strategy that used to kind of be the old system of we total up the improvements, we'd ask to one bond amount and we'd issue it. This is a lot more effective. It's a nice longer-term capital planning tool that's available to you. Also on the right-hand side, our last two items, the allowable use of bond proceeds is they have to be capital related. So we're not going to be funding any salaries or any type of what we call general fund expenditures. And then that plays out on the far-hand right-hand side. Again, it can't be more operating any type of expenditure like that. You can get into debate with the attorneys, I'm going to paint the wall. Well, we can't do that, but I'm going to upgrade the wall or do a capital improvement. You kind of get into those nuances about what you can and can't do with those bond proceeds. So, does anyone have any questions, or is that a pretty good overview of the process on slide 3? Okay. Oh, wrong way. There we go. All right, so what you're seeing on this next slide is more specific to our school district here at Romulus. So the green bars are the bonds, principal, and interest payments. So as we repay our debt, the amount of bonds and principal and interest we have outstanding goes down. And then we also participate in a state program known as the School Loan Revolving Fund. And the School Loan Revolving Fund is a program that assists Michigan school districts fund capital improvements, and you borrow money from that program to play that out. So what you can see, the black line is the estimated bond millage rate. So we're at 8.25 mils all the way through 2025, and then it begins to drop down because we don't have as many bonds outstanding. We don't have to levy as high a property tax millage rate to fund that debt, so the property tax millage rate goes down. You can also see that the yellow bars vanish, which means we'll be out of the school loan revolving fund, and our deadline to repay the school loan revolving fund is 2035, and you're way ahead of that figure. So what the opportunity is you have, what a lot of school districts like to accomplish is they don't want to have to raise the property tax rate to the community, but a lot of opportunity to fund some more improvements down the road by not increasing that millage rate, but just extending the amount of period that it's outstanding. And so it's a really nice setup that, you know, again, not having to increase the millage rate to the community, fund improvements, but I'll show you in a line chart, you know, how much longer we would need to repay that 8.25 mils because we would have a new capital improvement project. Okay.
Can I?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
So we just put a new football field in.
Yep.
The life is what, 10 years?
8 to 12.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
So if we get another bond, we could add it to the extension, and in 10 years, we say, okay, now we have the ability to redo our football field again, right?
We would have to check with Michigan Department of Treasury. Most of the times, the last bond sale is like 6 to 7, 8 years out. But there's nothing that doesn't point out that, yes, we need to
I guess
replace
it's
the football
protecting
fields.
our capital equipment that we currently have.
Exactly.
So we can continue to replenish our bus fleet,
Yep.
and there's no limits of how often we can replace a bus as long as it's reached its livelihood, right?
Right. For buses in particular, they have a 6-year useful life.
So depreciation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if we put a bus in our bond, I have to show that there's enough principal payments in 6 years that that's bus paid off.
Okay.
Because we don't want to finance a bus over 30 years,
No,
right?
no, no.
So just in that
But-
bus example, they do have a useful
Right,
life item.
right.
Right.
They barely last.
Yeah.
5, 6 years, right? Okay.
No, and that instructional technology, Chromebooks, they have the 5-year useful life period, so that's another asset example.
All right, thank you.
So I've done sinking fund before and operating village. Never had an opportunity to do bond.
Sure.
How do you present to the community that, hey, your taxes aren't going to go up? You know, how do you convince? Because everybody thinks if you're going to come out, oh, they want something from. When we wouldn't be, you're just asking for them to continue, almost like an operating village, or am I wrong?
No,
Just
no,
trying to
you're.
figure it out so I got to that point.
So I'm gonna cheat ahead and I'm gonna jump back because it's a great question, right? I mean, just anyway, you're gonna ask for more bond money and you're gonna take on more debt and you're not gonna raise my property tax millage rate, right? I mean, those don't.
Right.
And I get it. You know, before I got into this business, I would have thought I was crazy too. You know, no problem. So because we're paying off our debt, and so we've got room now where we can fill that in with new bonds and keep it at 8.25. That's how we're able to do this project. So you can see if we continue on with the blue line, if we do the example project, which I'm going to show you, now the 8.25 is the bond millage rate goes out a lot further. So we're extending. So the reason I can get you more capital improvement funding and not raise your millage rate is because now I'm going to extend the length or time period that it's
That
outstanding.
we can pay it off.
Does that make sense? Because it's a great question, and that's the answer is,
Like
I'm not going to raise your
remortgaging your
property
house.
tax millage rate, but now it's going to take us many more years to pay it off because we're going to use this money to do improvements.
I'm like, Sue right there was like, okay, we need to talk over here so you can tell me in terms of my house, what would it sound
Well, like
I own a
remortgaging my house,
How would
yeah.
you be able to, so that I can get it? We don't need it now, but just from the house, when I think about my own house, I'm like, okay, now how can I leverage?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Maybe
if you had a 15-year mortgage and then you wanted to do some capital improvements, so you were going to leverage that out, you would just extend the amortization and kind of take the money on. Right. Oh, I'm sorry. Cost of the homeowner wouldn't change.
Whatever my taxes are now, they don't change.
Right.
But I have a question. We have, So on this chart,
Yep, let me jump back.
the previous chart, where we have to pay it off by 2035.
Correct.
But we're scheduled to pay it off 2028. If we did not drop the 8.25 to 7.13 or lower, when would that be paid off if it stayed constant at 8.25?
Well, that's a great question, is we would be legally obligated to lower the
Okay.
bond millage rate 0.25, because the deal is, with the community is, if you approve our bond election, then we have a bond payment and our property values change, and we as a school district must levy whatever bond millage is necessary to make that payment. So as our bond payment goes down, we're paying off our debt, we can't collect more money than the annual bond payment. Does that make sense? We have to bring it down.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but if we then got more bonds, then would we still be dropping on this first one?
No,
or
no,
would we
no, because
continue
now
up
we
straight?
have we
Okay.
have more debt, we
All
have
right.
a higher bond payment, so now we have to keep levying the 8.25 to support our new project.
So what happens is that homeowners don't pay more, they just don't get this,
Correct.
this
Right.
quick reduced, okay.
Yeah, but it's kind of a different question to the community is, hey, we're not asking you to pay any more, but if you fund these improvements, it's gonna take a longer period of time to take that off. The 8.25 is gonna be extended.
So how is the community impacted, homeowners impacted, as we continue to get more renters and fewer homeowners?
Oh, well, I mean, that's kind of between the homeowner, if you own it, you would just keep paying your 8.25, no difference.
Right.
The owner of the property is still having levied 8.25.
Right.
How they pass it on to the renter is their.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as houses just become abandoned and, or torn down and people aren't buying them, so there isn't a homeowner, but we see more like rental communities, like apartments or townhomes or whatever. Could we potentially be in a situation going in where paying this back could be a hardship?
Well, it's possible. I mean, if property values go down, so our millage rate would bring in less money, then it would take us, we're not bringing as much revenue,
Right.
and it would take us longer to repay that debt, or we'd maybe have to raise the millage rate if that played. in.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
One more for me, just in operating millage, when I had to go out to the community.
The 18 mills non-homestead, yes. Yeah.
Non-homestead.
Yep.
That's what I had. And it's an easy concept to be able to go out and say it, but most people don't.
Oh, yeah.
Bonds is all, it's homestead and everybody else, like
Cor-
businesses too.
Yes, everyone's treated the same, so the entire property
Yeah.
tax base, where exactly your non-homestead is only on second homes and businesses. Yeah.
So what about all of the tax-free industrial businesses that are going up around here? I know, I'm serious. We've, two-thirds of our rooftops practically are gone because of the airport, all of the industrial buildings. They just rezoned one area to brown property and to change it so that it's tax-free. Do we collect a base from them?
No, so there are different nuances, like industrial facility tax is an economic development mechanism, and they only get charged at half their taxable value. So when an economic incentive, to your point, comes in, that leaves our tax base, and, to give them the economic incentive, but we're not collecting the 8.25. And there's brownfield IFTs, there's tons of them, but when that happens, the economic incentive, some of them don't collect the debt, some do others, so there's very different nuances, but there are some where you do get a break on the bond millage, for example.
Thank you.
No, great questions. Excellent. Let's see here. All right, so this is an example capital plan, just to put something on the board. Don't look at this as, like we said, this is informational, but just, I like to put something up there as a visual, and then obviously you'll go, if you want to do this, you'll do your own capital planning, how many bond sales, all of that will come through. So what this is your green box on the right-hand side. This is an example $150 million election, okay? So in this example, you'd be asking the community to approve a not to exceed $150 million worth of bonds. And then you can see in 25, there'd be 40 million. There'd be 2 years to pay off that debt before the next bond would come on in 27 at 55 million. And then there'd be a final phase of 2029 of 55 million and that hits the total 150. So again, one bond election, but your improvements would be funded over 3 bond sales within that one election.
And we don't have access to those funds until, so in 2027, we would have $55,000.
55 million, yeah.
I'm sorry, 55 million. Forgot a zero, sorry.
Yep.
And then in 2029, the same figure. Another,
Another one.
right. Still the same figure, though. Right, okay.
Well, and you're bringing up a good point. So, if we have all these improvements we want to do, where's the need? Who has to go first because that's a repair, or we want to do this first? It becomes a game of, or a plan of who goes first, who's going to be in 29, how do you want to do those improvements underneath that?
So when we would get the 40 million for 2025, do we have a limited time to spend that 40 million?
Usually they want it spent within 3-year time period. There's some rules about how long you're.
So it can
able to
carry
invest.
over until we get the next bond payment in 2027?
Right about that time period. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is, let's say this was the plan. Again, this is just an example.
Right.
You can change those dollar amounts and the timing of the sales within the bond series. What you can't do is you can't go over the 150 because that's what the public's approved. So we have many different things play out where interest rates have been really low, the past 3 to 4 years. So we actually issued some bonds sooner so we could lock into lower interest rates. We've had instances where some of our clients take money sooner because they want to do improvements sooner. But recently, construction prices have been higher, and so we've had some clients actually pushing it back because they can't spend the money, the project's not ready. So as you make your way through the program, you are able to make adjustments if it makes sense to those sales and timing. You just can't go over the 150 million.
Thank you.
Yep. And so again, this is just an example. So this would be 150 million in 25, 27, and 29, and then you can see on the blue box, this would not change the millage rate. You can fund this example program and leave the bond millage rate the same to the community. And then on the next page, to your question you brought up earlier, which is the good question, how can you do $150 million? Well, now we will extend the length of the bond millage rate because we're going to have to repay that 150 in our existing bonds, so that's the gold line, and that's how far it would go out.
So it's kind of like using Klarna, just put it on the back end. Well, I'm trying to break it down so I can.
No.
But I think I got you. Afterpay. Yeah, Afterpay. We'll just break it up in 4, 5, 6. Got it. Okay.
Well, and the other nice thing about, this example is you can see the total bond length is extended, but the 8.25 is only extended until 29 or 30. It is estimated to go down at that time period. But.
So the 8.25, just, is that the 150 roughly?
Right, so that gold line is the 150 capital plan. What's the estimated bond millage rate if that was approved?
Okay, so if we went for an 8.25 mil, we would get $150 million.
Now, there's more funding available. If you need more, again, that 150 is just a chalkboard thing. If so,
Right.
I've had many clients that say it turns out it needs to be 170. And then the question is, well, how much can you get without having to raise the millage rate, or when the point do you do it? Or maybe you only need 75 million. Well, then that line doesn't have to go out as far because we don't have as much debt. Many times we come back to our clients with 3, 4 different options so they can find that sweet spot as to what they're trying to accomplish with the improvements and their millage rate.
Question?
Yep.
So on what you've shown, what is the estimated cost of interest?
I'd have to pull that figure. It will be pretty high.
Right.
You're borrowing
Just-
$150 million, but we have that information, or I can
Okay.
email it out. I don't have it on me right now.
And then on this, I know with the bonds we have now, we kept it at 8.25. So, and I notice on this one, we only keep it, well, this chart shows us keeping the millage at 8.25 only through, 2028 or 29?
Yep.
So why are we dropping it so much sooner? I mean, and I know this isn't a decision, but
Oh, yeah.
this is just in front of us versus keeping it at 8.25 for a longer period of time like we did with the current bonds.
No, and you bring up a good point because this is an option. So we could have the 8.25 go out longer. and we'd have more revenues and we'd pay off the debt faster.
Right.
Or we don't pay the debt off as fast and we have lower bond payments, and then we have that drop off where you're seeing it. So you have some options about, okay, this is the target, we want to have the 8.25 maybe out 7 years. We'd like a figure of X, and then we take those parameters from you, and then we bring you back financial plans that will hit those items.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that 8.25 is an assumption.
Correct.
Correct. So my
Yep.
so my question would be, how would that be determined? How will we be determining what that would be based on what numbers? How is this determined and when? I mean, how would you determine? What it would be?
No. Excellent question. So under these, you can see at the bottom, we're assuming that the taxable value is growing by 3% for the first 5 years, and then 0.86 after that. So we're assuming how far the property tax value is going up. And then we have to assume conservative bond interest rates, because I don't want to ever come back to the board and say, I budgeted X and it turned out to be Y. So we're very conservative in putting together where that 8.25 is. Now, you do bring up another good point, which we've gotten a lot of questions on, is, okay, so what happens if unfortunately the economy begins to change? And the nice thing with the bond series approach is, let's say we did the first series of 40 million, so we're done and we're doing those improvements, and unfortunately the economy begins to change about 26, 27. Well, we don't have to do that 55 million. Maybe we take it down to 15, we take it down to 20. You know, I come back to you and, hey, we're not hitting our taxable value targets. You know, things aren't looking a little bit out there. We have the opportunity to change our plan, adjust our bond sales, make a difference if it doesn't look like we're going to hit that 8.25 because property values have begun to decline.
So when does that happen? Like, when do you have that discussion?
Oh, if that was scheduled in
curious.
27, we normally bring the administration, like we're having all of our calls with our clients now about fall of 26. You know, here's the update where the property values are, here's where we budgeted, everything looks good, we're on track, or hey, it looks like we may want to talk about some adjustments. And the other side of that is you're tracking your construction projects too, right? So yeah, we don't need as much money, or we do need it. You know, both those two things are coming together to say, yep, we're on track, we're going to keep with that 55 million, or we may want to make an adjustment. Yeah.
The taxable value growth assumption that's presented, how does that align with what our growth has been, the taxable value growth has been the last 3 to 5 years?
So that's a great question. Is the taxable value growth assumptions are actually prescribed through the state of Michigan, or the Michigan School Bond Qualification Loan Program. And the rules are, is for the first 5 years, you can use the 5-year average. For then 6 and beyond, you can only use the 20-year average.
Okay.
So we've got 5% for the first 5 years, because the past 5 years, things have been pretty good or stable around the state as far as property values. But you can see that 0.86%. And the reason being is in our 20-year average, we have 2008, we have 2009, we have 2011, we have 2012, and those figures are bringing down that average. So it's nice that we're not assuming 3% the entire prime, we're only assuming 3% for 5 years and then 0.86 after that. So hopefully that's a very good conservative figure.
Is there another page?
Yep. Nice one. All right, so then the question is, you know, what's the process or the overview, or you know, what happens from basically the idea to getting to the ballot? And so we have a nice timetable on slide 7. So in the top left corner, this is an example, November 2024. Okay, so that's the election time period. In a normal year in Michigan, you have May, August, and November. So you have 3 election dates available to you, and this is November 24, all right? So at the top, between now and 2024, you know, you're working with your construction professionals to figure out what improvements do we want to do here? What's going to make Romulus special? You've done this nice job with the media center and the STEM academies. What improvements do you have to do? Hey, that roof, we got to do something about that. And you're getting all of those projects and you're getting all those construction estimates. Then at that time period, you have to have your plan done because it gets presented to the Michigan Department of Treasury. And so what that is I'm at that meeting of Michigan Department of Treasury, the administrative team, and you're presenting your plan to them. So hey, we're asking for $150 million. We're going to do it in these 3 series, 2 years apart, and here's what we're going to do with the money. And then it's my job to present, here's our taxable value growth assumptions, here are our interest rates, so the state gets a chance to review all of those items, okay? So really our deadline, if we want to make the November 2024 ballot, we need to have pretty much everything in place by late June, early July 2024. Because that's when the plan has to go before the state, and that's when you're setting the tone of what the project's gonna be. Does that make sense what that is? So, and then you can see there's a lot of other items after that, you know, so once the state approves the application, you as a board will approve the application. You're calling for the election in July. Then obviously, with the counties putting the election ballot on the, getting the ballot ready, all the voting machines, everything, absentee ballots out in September 2024. And then obviously you have a lot of communications with your community. Hey, here's the estimated bond and millage rate. Here's what we plan to do with the money. You can imagine all the different questions that plays out between then and until you get to the election date.
So this is kind of just a confirmation for my mind.
Yeah.
We need to have a strategic plan of what we would do with the funding should we get. So we need a 2-year plan, we need a 5-year plan, and we really need a 10-year plan to say, this might be the status of this building, what are we going to do with this? One question that I do have is with the bonds, it says real estate purchases. Can we use that to tear down buildings?
Yes, I have seen demolition as a cost. And then real estate purchases mostly, yes, we need to buy this land to build this school. But
Okay, but we own the land.
yeah, in your case,
We own a
demolition is
property,
allowed.
and demolition is permissible.
Yep.
But that would have to be in the new bond, not in the current bond that exists, correct?
Right, that would be, you would say, you know, in Series 1, we're going to do this demolition for $100,000. You're outlining that project in that application. Yeah.
Very good. Yes, Mr. Garland is behind you. I don't mean to take over Ursula, sorry.
So
President Wester,
if-
sorry.
If we are indeed planning to go out for a capital bond like this, we could then fund the demolition of, I know which building you're speaking of, through the sinking fund, and it would be admissible to do so as well.
Our existing sinking fund?
Correct.
Bid Pack 5A?
Stop. Oh, it's like,
Inside joke, okay.
it's like Groundhog's Day.
It's like, that one will get me. I've never had that one before.
So I do have a question. I know, and Mr. Garland, you might have this information, and Ms. Evans, because I know you two were working with it. But a little over a year ago, it was brought to the board to consider going out for bonds so that we could do more stuff now. You remember that? It was a little over a year ago.
To sell them.
Right, and then, but for some, there were some things that I know we didn't have like a whole committee meeting, but some things that just made it not prudent at that time. So I'm just asking like what those were, and so we can hedge against that going forward if we do this.
Romulus community has been very, very generous to us with the sinking fund. But we only levy about 3 million, 3.3 a year. And so we do all we can. But by the time we're done with this project, all those things will need attention again. We need to do one large bond and do all the repairs we can. And that way, everything's fresh, everything's new. I mean, right now, we got so much beautiful stuff, but we're still struggling to get parking lots. We're still struggling to do sidewalks. And there's still a couple roofs out there. So it's just, we do all we can in that given year, but we're never gonna catch up. We're always gonna be behind a little bit.
So I do have a question. We currently have bonds. We currently have a millage, right? And what funding are we getting annually now for the bonds that are in existence?
Right. So, yeah, right. You've expended all the proceeds from the prior
We have.
bonds.
Okay,
Right.
that's what I wanted to know. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Certainly, there's
I
no money
didn't-
sitting. I mean, it's a
didn't
long
know.
time ago. Yeah, okay.
1999.
99, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Where those funds.
we have no income from bonds right now. Okay.
So will you come back?
You know, certainly. I usually don't get any encores, so that's fine. You know, it's like, usually the
Oh,
accountant's
you need
like,
an
"Okay, everybody
encore."
move on."
I'm waiting for the accounting joke. That's an oxymoron right
Well,
there.
Kevin used them all up on our previous call, so I don't have any new material. But no, it would certainly, you know, I'm honest. They want to know they want to see your cool elementary school. They want to hear this. But, you know, I'm perfectly going to come that night and say, okay, the finance plan is X. Here's our taxable value growth assumptions. And then you probably want to turn over the cooler people that are going, well, we're going to turn our elementary school into this, and it's going to look great. You know, I'm certainly to do the front part of that job. So, yeah, not a problem.
Madam President, I always got to bring this up. I don't know if you can hear me now, but Madam President, ma'am.
Yes.
So I just want to make a comment. I think already we have residents who are hearing about a bond for the school, and already with the not clarity of what that means. So early on, you did speak about the difference, you know, and how that is done, how it's rolled out in terms of taxes, you know, increased taxes, whatever. So, Dr. Superintendent Edmondson, okay, one of those things I do know, just from the little conversation that's going on, is that clarity, you know, that clarity and clarification of how this impact, how the bond would impact tax, you know, the res taxations and how that work. It's going to be a crucial piece of information that we have to be very intentional about making sure that they understand, we understand first, and then that we can communicate that, as well as the community understanding what that really means. Because until now, I mean, I had an idea, you know, I'm an accountant too, but don't listen to, you know, bonds and whatever in that aspect, but looking at it and levy and all of that is a different, is expenditures for us and what have you not. So, in taking the language and breaking it down to layman terms, okay, it's gonna be very critical and crucial for getting this out there and our voters understanding exactly what that means.
Yeah, most districts refer to
I
it as an
believe you're
extension.
talking to your fellow board members, because they
Yeah,
have to
we
sell
are,
it too.
everybody,
Right.
yeah, everyone.
And that's
Yeah,
what I felt
yeah.
very comfortable with, the operating millage. I know that like the back of my hand. Like,
Yeah.
so it's easy for me to present that. That's why I'm like, okay, I need to get
The
more
language.
aware on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's the same rules as there are with the operating millage, like there's certain things you can't use
Can't do.
resources, and I'd imagine it's
Yep,
quite
it's-
the
it's-
same.
Yep, it's running under the same election law
Right,
we
that's
have
what I
in the state that's gonna apply to all of
So
them.
we probably need a briefing.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
without
need
a
a
doubt.
The
brief.
attorneys
We
will
need-
be-
we
the
need- well,
attorneys will
whoever's
be
gonna
there.
do that, you know, just
Yeah.
brief us on what the speaking words.
And how are the fees, the advisory fees paid? Is that spread out over the course of the bond? Is it paid up front? Can it be paid with bond funds, or does that come from general fund?
No, it's all paid out of the bond proceeds, and for our section, we only get paid if it passes, because it's paid out of the bond.
Right.
So to issue the bond, to do our, you saw each series, there's a calculation of fees, so the attorneys, ourselves, everyone it takes to get the money in the bank, and they're paid out of the bond. General fund doesn't pick up
All
any
right.
of that.
And is that a percentage of the bond?
There's a base fee for the smaller, and then the incremental fee goes down as the project gets higher.
Okay.
But we would have all of that broken out for your review, so you can see, you know, here's the underwriting firm that buys the bonds, here's the attorney, here's all of that, because it's all paid out of the bond. It's got to be in that application we give to the state, so you would see that detail.
And does that come out of the first money?
Each
Or is
sale.
it spread, okay,
Yeah.
each sale, okay, thank
So
you.
you only pay as you do a bond sale.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Yes. We won't be going out for a $1 billion bond. I know you know where I'm talking about. $1 billion. I couldn't believe it, but it passed. It passed. Yeah, it passed. 30 years. I know.
I mean, this was a lot of information, but it was good to really hear how it's broken down, you know, and like they said, really trying to break it down for the residents when we do go out. Because Dr. Edmondson, hey, how do I compare it to my house? You know, to kind of break it down where they understand it. It's just like teaching, you know, math in a math class. Some people can learn like this, and you just have to break it down to every day. You got 2 apples here, 1 over here, and it's going to do like this, and we keep the same rate. So it's very good information. You will be coming back to give us some more as we as we move forward. But no, it's very good information. And board, we all had very good questions.
It's time
And it is time sensitive, so we do really have to think about what we're gonna do moving forward, because 24 will be here before we know it.
So a couple of things on the comments from the boards. Really good questions tonight. A couple of things. One, I've been blessed to be a part of a zero-based bond, which is what we called this in a former district. So zero-based means we're keeping the same rate of millage or the same rate of bond throughout extending it out. And number two, if the board decides to go out for a bond, Baker Tilly would break this down at what it would cost me as a taxpayer, how much it's gonna cost me in my household every year. What are my taxes now? What are they gonna be projected to be next year? What is it gonna cost me the year after? So that when you are having conversations with constituents, you can say, if your house is valued at X, your taxes are Y for the next so many years. That's been my experience when working with people like Baker Tilly. So that our voters are knowledgeable about what it's gonna cost, because that's the bottom line.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bet you don't get that at work.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Now we're at the consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the September 25th, 2023 consent agenda as presented. Matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under the report of the superintendent portion. A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Education for the August 28th, 2023 regular board meeting, September 11th, 2023 regular board meeting. B, approval of bills for payment as submitted by Jewel Claire in the amount of $1,050,966.95. And C, approval of the personnel actions as submitted by Human Resources Director Kevin Brock, employment of Marilyn Watson, secretary at Barth Elementary, Henry Bogle, art teacher for Wick Elementary, Raymond Holt, junior custodian, and Amanda Wiggle, kindergarten teacher for Wick Elementary. Is there
Support.
support? We have a motion and a support.
Madam President?
Yes.
I just have one quick question. We don't have to pull it off, but the Henry Bogle, is he art teacher for all of Wick or just STEAM? Because I know earlier we heard he was STEAM.
STEAM as a female.
Okay, that,
So we have, okay, so we have a STEAM Academy art teacher. And then for X amount of students, and then we have one art teacher for minimum twice as many students.
Is that a split?
I'm sorry?
It's like 4 times.
So we have one, and is this art teacher strictly for Wick? Or, I know in the past, they used to go between 2 elementaries. So the elementary schools would have art
With Wick.
the first semester, and then music the second semester. So they have art all year round?
To my understanding, yes.
Mr. Brock?
So I'm trying to remember, it's, we're sharing art and music, they're flip-flopping halfway through the year.
right.
So it is a
So
split.
it's art at one building for half the year.
Right.
Music at the other, so you are correct, yes, it's a flip-flop.
Okay.
Two buildings. I'm trying to remember what building this is sharing, I wanna say,
So how many times a week do the STEAM Academy students get art? Or how many hours?
this is not for STEAM.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking with the STEAM art teacher, how many hours a week does the STEAM students get art versus your 4 months, 3 months, whatever, half a school year is? How many do those students get?
I have to pull their schedule, I don't know that.
More.
I have to pull their schedule for STEAM.
I'm guessing, I mean, I don't have, and Paul's not here, I'm guessing STEAM has it daily.
Yes,
I'm
Okay.
guessing.
sure.
And then they go over to the middle school at the end of the day. So yes, STEAM, seems like they have art every day.
Okay, and WIC students get art once a week for an hour. Okay.
Yes.
All elementaries do.
Can we do a roll call vote for the agenda?
For the first either half of the school year or the second half of the school year,
Right.
yes.
Okay, so moved by Wester, supported by Davis, to accept the consent agenda. Wester?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Laster?
Yes.
Kennard?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Piles, yes. McCarthy?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have the report of the superintendent, where we're gonna, you wanna do this first?
Yeah, that last, let's do that last
Okay.
if we can. I just wanted to start, and it's exactly what trustee Evans has said, and I've said it a number of times. We've got to have a strategic plan. You have to. And the strategic plan can withstand superintendent moves. I'm gone and somebody else comes here, they gotta follow the strategic plan. They're gone, the next person has to, it's foolproof for a district. I have contacted MLI, Michigan Leadership Institute, as well as MESB. I had gotten quotes in, I believe it was February, maybe March. I'm seeing if they'll both honor those, but I can give you the information. I don't have any skin in the game as to which one. I could care less. What I care about is that we have a strategic plan where the community is involved, we're involved, the leaders of the schools are involved, and in some respects, yes, kids are involved too. But we've got to, and if we're talking about a bond, we're gonna look crazy without it. It can't happen without a strategic plan. So I'm asking the board to say, move ahead, and I've actually moved ahead anyway.
Can I make a statement
Yes,
also?
yes.
I know there has been dialogue at the table that we haven't done a strategic plan for several years. However, there was a board retreat last year where there was some strategic plans set in place. And we need to review those strategic plans also, in addition to the one that we did several years ago. So there was a strategic plan last year in Lansing.
Okay.
No,
My-
I just wanted to make
that's
sure
important.
that
That's
everybody is
important.
aware that we did that.
That's important. I would like to, under my leadership, I would probably do it a little different. I don't know how it was done before, so I just know it's a very, very collaborative process. It's not the board
Absolutely.
choosing the strategic plan for the school district. It is a community-wide process. It takes some time to do it, and for me, it's a great opportunity to dream big. I'm still trying to dream. I have a vision that I have on paper, and those things have come to fruition. A lot of them have come to fruition, but we've got to start talking about, looking around, nobody here is there, so STEAM program, okay, what's next? Or are we gonna be inventive about, if you wanted, immersion, Spanish immersion, or if we, dream big. And I was gonna get to the next thing, but I'll stop there. I'm just saying to the board, I will have something to you in October. I will have two choices. We can do Michigan Leadership Institute, MASB, if you feel that there's another person, I'll be glad to bring those to you. It's just time. And I care about this for the community and the kids. It's not about me, care less about me. What I care about is it can withstand board changes, it can withstand superintendent changes, it can withstand leadership changes. And that's what we owe the community, particularly if we're going out for a bond. We want to be able to say, and that's not been determined yet, just so that it's probably going to leave here that we're going out for a bond. It has not been determined that we're doing a bond, but if we're going to, these things have to be in place. So I'm telling the board that in March, October, in October I will bring you something, and I'm hoping that whatever you decide, then we make it an action item, or if you need me to bring the companies here, I will bring the companies here. Whatever you need, I will do, because I need to get this done for our community. And I think, honestly, that it's the legacy of the board. It's the legacy of this board. We're all together. We do a strategic plan. We're held to that regardless. When you come back and you see something crazy, they're going to be saying, you did it. So that's just how that is. I just want you to know. Or you didn't do it.
Or you didn't do it right.
Yeah, you know. So I just want you to know in October, I will have that for you in any form or fashion that you'd like. I'll bring it, and I hope that we make a decision there as to what organization we're going to determine. And I believe Secretary Pazos said that even RISA, maybe Leonard
Yeah, they have-
Wismarski or something, I'll contact all three and I'll see
Yeah.
And it's not about the cheapest.
No,
It's
it
about the
would be,
process.
it would be advantageous for them to come to and do a presentation of how they see a strategic planning
That would be good.
taking place.
Okay, so I can try to do that, and I would do it in a workshop. I'm not doing it at a regular board meeting where everybody got to sit through that. If we can agree to, you know, one per, if I can get all three, it's probably gonna be hard to get three. They're at the same time, but I'll give it my best shot. If not, I'll at least get two. Okay, and then we can decide, we can listen to the presentation and move on from there. I will get that done.
With dinner.
Eve, with fried chicken wings.
Dr. Edmondson?
Not fried, dinner.
Inside joke.
So, we're talking about potentially going out for bond. We're talking about if we do, it being time sensitive. We're talking about if we do that, we need a strategic plan. Could we please get the financial information that's been requested so we know the current cost of our commitments that have been unknown? If we are asking people to give us their two most valuable resources, their children and their money, we need to be worthy of that. We need to know what our current cost and commitments are and not have to keep asking. So I respectfully ask,
You got
will
it.
you please get
You
that
got
to
it.
us?
And Dr. Gistinger is back from out of the country. I saw her today.
That's
And
good,
so-
that's good, but when recommendations come to us, it should be known what it's gonna cost the
Yes,
district.
I will certainly do that. I will also remind the board that when you do board questions, okay, that we said that there's a format. I need it to be in that format so that I can pass it on, and on Mondays that we can talk about it as a cabinet like today, we'll be able to talk about it. I just need that. The finance came out of the Finance Committee and the MASB workshop. I'd just like us to honor that, at least start. If we can start doing
What's
that,
that format?
that'll be great. What's
That Google sheet that we
Google-
couldn't
yeah.
open?
Yeah, that we have to have permission.
Yeah, we
I don't-
can't even open it. But here's the thing, look, the finance questions date back to March. And we've been told in open meeting, oh yeah, I'll get those to you. I've sent those so many ways.
Well,
I'll
I'm
be
just
honest with
saying,
you.
I
I'm not
already
gonna
know.
try and, I
don't
can't
have
get
to
in
do
that
it.
Google sheet, but everybody knows my questions. What are the cost of the collective
glad
bargaining
to-
agreements, total cost?
Yeah, you don't have to send them to me.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to send them to me.
Good, because
again.
I'm tired of writing.
Not at all, okay? I would just also, this is, again, moving forward. I would appreciate if the board could do what we said we would do and put that in the form that we said it would happen, and then it can be done, okay? It's just moving the board forward. It's all working together in the same, rowing in the same direction or riding the bike in the same direction. Let's just get that done. I will get those to you. I saw
Thank
Dr. Gistinger today. She's very aware. You'll get those. And
All
my
right, but you know
apologies.
we can't open the Google Doc, so.
didn't know that,
So that
but-
format's
okay.
not working, so.
Well, the
right.
format, if you can't get in,
Yeah.
it's just, I would get something back that says you can't get in, and it says give permission. So I'll get that to you. If that's the case, that's fine. I
Thank you.
believe that. If I can move on now, I have student attendance, a couple of things. So in front of you, you should all have a sheet like this, and I wanted you to have this for a reason, okay? This first, before I actually get into all the attendance, is the form that talks about building capacity. Every building you see, you can see the building and you can see the number of students the maximum number of students that are in there. So now if we go to this document that's posted here, this is what I am doing. It's not going live. It's not going live. I'm in the document now, okay? But anyway, it's easier for me if you will allow me kindly, board, trustee, appreciate that. So what I do here, as superintendent, I ask the secretaries every day, I need this information by 12. You see that most of the times I get it, I don't always get it. This to me is about attendance. We are not talking about enrollment. There are two different things. So enrollment means we look into MyStar and it says, you have 350 students that are enrolled in your school. Well, the worst thing is to use that data and present it to the board like, oh, we have 350. No, we don't. No, we don't. There's a 350 that are in the system that say they're going there, okay? But it can create misinformation if I share that with you. So what I do is I ask for a daily count, actual physical bodies that have arrived to the school that day. So I ask the secretaries, I'm sorry here, but I ask them to put in information every day, your attendance. That's what I do. That's what I'm concerned about, because now I can really say, when I add everything up, when I total it, the most that we've had, I can total that up and say, okay, I know there's been 2,135 kids in this district. We need to capture all of them. Enrollment will give me a false sense of security and say, oh, we have 3,500. I report to the board, and we're all high-fiving. And then the next month, I'm like, mighty low, mighty low. So this is what this is, and I gave you access to this because I want you to see it on every single day. I count this like I count my paycheck. So you can see the dates that are on it. Now, what I did with this document in front of you, and I did this because I know what we're about to endeavor, possibly. There is no bond, but possibly. So I take these numbers here, maximum capacity, and I take the highest number at Hale Creek. I can't go, I don't know what it is. If I were to move it over, do you have access to it? Just move it, move the document over so we can see September 22nd. We're on September 28th. Regardless, you all have this. We'll just say it's 245.
Okay.
I take 245 and I divide it by 600, and that tells me the capacity that is used in that building. So now I have to run over here, and I have them all. So Barth is occupying 37% of the building. It means 63% is not being used. 41% at Hale Creek is being used.
Can I ask a question? Can I
Yes,
stop you right
yes,
there?
yes, yes. Let me move this.
Does that include the media center? Does that include the gymnasium?
No.
It's
Cla-
just
classrooms.
It's just classrooms.
Well, and I'm asking that question for a
That's fair.
legitimate
You can-
reason,
it's
because
legit,
that's,
so-
when I was there, they walked around and they did this and they did that. Well,
Who's they? What do you mean?
the company that evaluated the
Building site
Yeah.
review,
Yeah,
site review.
But that's what they included. They included this, so this could be broken up into 4 rooms and those kind of
Yeah.
things. So I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, it's sort of like when you say student-teacher ratio is not the same as a small class ratio. A small class is about the number of kids with that teacher versus pupil something where you take all of the staff members and divide it by the number of students. But no, this is just capacity-wise. What kind of capacity based on the number of classrooms. So I did those numbers, and I'm not comparing schools. This is not about
No.
trying to show one school up for the other. It's just to say, WIC 43% capacity. Middle school, 51% capacity. High school, 41% capacity. L, 43%. Hale Creek, 41%. I didn't do Corey because the number is so
Yeah.
low. And that's not fair to them. And Barth was 37%.
What
I
was
did
the
with
middle
that
school?
number- What's that?
I'm sorry, what was the middle
I'm
school?
sorry, I'll get it to you. Middle school was 51%.
Yeah, these have all dropped significantly. Thank you.
So you can see, not only can you see that there are some drops, but I also look at it. I'm good. So I just also utilize it to see capacity of the buildings. So that if you ever had to make a decision about, and I don't want to say that out loud.
Right.
Right.
If you
A
ever wanted to,
decision.
right, if you wanted to make a decision, that tells you what to look at. Or if we're looking to expand a building and we don't know where to put it, we can look at another building and say, well, that's 50% capacity. Did it take an additional 200 students? So I just wanted you to have that. I will print it out for you again, or I'll give you the actual numbers. Okay, so that's that about capacity.
Can I?
This, yes, go ahead.
So I'm not being a negative.
No, Sue, it's okay.
Okay,
I need this.
but I received this spreadsheet with those numbers on it, September 12th. How did you forecast all of these dates on all of these numbers on September 12th?
They're not forecast.
Oh, but I have that exact sheet that we got on September 12th in an email
You
attachment.
didn't have all these because they weren't in there.
This is it.
That's not
This is
possible.
it. Well, I'm telling
it's
you
a
that
work-
I got an
it-
email on September 12th.
It's a working-
With the attachment.
As they add in each day,
No,
it adds into that
On
sheet.
on September 12th, I opened this email, and those numbers all the way through September 25th were on this email. So I'm just asking.
Did you want to, that's not, I'm just telling you that's not possible.
Okay.
But this is a working doc, so
This
next
is a
week,
working document.
so we're gonna see tomorrow, the 26th, and that same document.
And I
Okay.
laugh because this isn't really funny, but I'm gonna share it. You see ones that haven't been done. You know, I had a conversation with one of my cabinet members, was like, maybe we shouldn't put that there. I said, the hell, I'm not gonna put that there.
Yeah.
They didn't do what I asked them to do.
Exactly.
You need to have it by 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay? We're having big problems
Well,
across
can I
the
say
district
something about,
with attendance,
Yes.
taking attendance. And listen, it's just been a problem. It has not been addressed. It's nobody's fault. but it's my fault if I don't fix it. So I'm
Right.
going to
But
fix
you
it.
request for 12 o'clock at the elementary level, you have to, what time do we have to do PM attendance at the elementary
Because
level?
there's two.
Tammy?
There's two at
I think it's-
elementary.
I think it's
Two
one,
Attendance.
1 o'clock,
Yeah, I don't.
maybe,
I'm all-
maybe
I'm-
12.
I'm-
There's a
I'm
second
certainly all
attendance
right
that they
with it.
have to do.
Right.
I'm certainly all right with it, but I want, for my
But I
purpose,
hear you, yeah.
I want it by 12. I'm not waiting till 3 and 4. I need to
Yep.
look at it, I need to see it. I just need sure that you're doing it. First of all, that you're doing it. But it also gives me an idea what we're doing. So I'm gonna wrap this around and make sure that it all makes sense to everybody. But if we look at the high school, the most that we've had on any given day was 610 kids.
Wow.
On any given day. That was one time.
Hmm.
The least we've had is 510. 510. So there's a problem, and that's where I'm gonna go and segue now, if you'll allow it. Okay? I respect Dr. Cheney. I thank you so much. I know my email was a little bit, it wasn't brash. It is what it is. It's a problem in this district. When I tell you that 40% of our students of elementary are missing over 20 days of school. At the least, it's 20. 40% of elementary. We get to the middle school, it's 27% of our kids are chronically absent, and at the high school, it's 21%. Okay? I didn't do that to scare anybody. I got an email from a board member that asked me, legit, totally legit. I didn't take the time to finish to the community, but I wanted them to know how serious this is. Okay? We're never gonna achieve academically with kids missing that much school. Okay? But every school, Dr. Cheney and everybody else isn't for, I wasn't able to give all that information. Every school has an assigned community liaison. And their job is, and I was gonna show you, but I decided not to. I have a system we have with Mr. Rourke. I have a system that alerts me at 3 absences, 6, 9. I get them every time, and I see them, and so does the officers. Okay, the other community assistants, community liaisons get it too. So officer has an officer code. At 3, it's triggered. At 3, we contact those families, and those families are sitting with us, having a conversation about, what do you need? What do you need? Okay, if you're out for 3 days or you have COVID, then we back off. We're gonna back off. That's the relationship building. They're gonna back off on that. There are extenuating circumstances where we will back off on that. But I can't say that most of the kids here have COVID or they're going on vacations or things like that. But what it does is the system trips at 3, and then there's an automatic phone call. Okay? If the parents don't wanna cooperate, that's when we go to the courts. But if they can't make it, the whole job is to work together to come up with a time where we can talk. But we need to talk about what's going on in the household. Maybe there were 3 days where you were absent, or it trips on suspensions too. So that's another conversation. If it trips on suspensions, I'm still gonna bring you in and your family and talk to you about, and that's me as in community liaison, not you. Okay. We're having that conversation about attendance. Okay. I knew that what I put out was strong. I told the board what I was doing. I shared it the whole time, what's going on. Okay, and I did. I talked to taxpayers about it, and then one particular taxpayer was like, listen, my taxes are going to people that want to go to school. We're trying to educate kids here. Okay, everybody doesn't have that idea. But my thing is, the superintendent is, I can't stomach this. Okay, and then the next thing we know, we're talking about achievement, and we're doing all these plans, and our biggest issue is kids don't come to school. And then you're gonna be looking at me, and then I'm gonna have to try to justify the TLP, like, oh, we're trying the best we can. And I appreciated the support. I'm not trying to ding any family at all, at all. The community liaison's job is to try to find resources. We have a manual, a book that's gonna help parents get their kids the services or get the family the services that they need. We are working with the courts on this. It's only as effective also as the officer doing a citation at 9. Okay. And the thing for me, and I'm gonna tell you my philosophy to the board in particular, when I was a principal, I said, the greatest problem that I have is schools do not look like the real world. We create this microcosm that doesn't exist. When you miss 15 days of work, you usually are terminated. But yet we're gonna, that's okay. I'll just take another example. A fight in a school, as egregious as that is, if you're at the mall and that happens, what happens? Oh, it looks very different. Why are we coddling? You can't count on kids. You just have to tell the truth. I'm in the kid business. But there are certain things where I need to come down hard because you know what? The outside world is gonna be harder. And I'm not saying that it's this, but I have a huge concern when I see these numbers and I'm like, you know, you can see them in front of me. One day when we went to September 12th, no, we started September 5th. September 5th, Adam? Can you move me to September 5th so they can see September 13th? I think those are the 2 days. I think they're Wednesday, maybe it's 6 and 13. This one here, I know it's this one. Huh? Oh, the second one. Oh, look at me.
Somebody didn't go to the PD to use the smart board.
You didn't go to training.
Not you, somebody else.
Tech PD.
Oh, look at that, you're funny. So what I did was I saw on any given day, you can have a school that has 536 on September 15th and on September 18th, 411. Now, that doesn't have to be true, okay? Because we're having huge problems with people taking attendance. And I'm gonna explain the next thing about attendance here, okay? Our system, and this is something I wanna change, I'm not gonna do it this year, okay? But next year, I plan to do it. The system defers to being present. So here I am, I'm a teacher, everybody comes in here, we have all these missing seats. I don't take attendance. It acts as though those people were here.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I want to flip it. I want it to be everybody's absent, so that it makes you have to count for who's here.
Right.
It's a district-wide problem. I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm gonna tell you this, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix that because it gives us a false sense of security, and we're having all kinds of problems. Thank goodness that Kathy Andrews is with us, because Kathy Andrews is serious about this. I had to hand deliver a number of incorrect absences. I delivered them to a school, and I said, you got 24 hours to get them to me. They got them, but then they were messed up the next time. So it's a process that we're working, but I needed you to see the numbers so that you have an idea. And what I did actually is, let's see if this works.
Not that way, you gotta do it at the bottom.
The bottom.
Do it at the bottom.
You trying to highlight? You trying to highlight?
Well, we don't want you making a meal, you can't even
So what
scroll.
I was trying to do is highlight it.
You were doing a fine job, you just have to hold the.
Okay, I want you to highlight it. It's like, where's Debbie Powell's here?
She's gone now.
She was the last one that was in the document. She was in the document.
Okay, so I did this. This is what I did for you all. So I took something like this, I went all the way across, and then I hit the sigma, wherever sigma is, I don't even see it. I hit sigma, and I had to do the average. So I was able to see the average attendance, even though elementary nobody has said anything to me about elementary, like, oh, that number's wrong in the afternoon. Not one person. But what I did was I went across so I could see the average daily attendance. Okay? Because you can see 506, I'm like, oh, that's like 554. When you go across and you hit the sigma and you put in average, you can get an average for how many kids are coming to school. On average, it's about 2,000. On average, it's about 2,000. If the numbers are correct, it's about 2,000. Okay, and that's still low. Okay, it's still low. Sometimes it's like 1,900. It's a lot of kids missed. And then we give a presentation from the My Kid where we have the TLP team, and everybody's working hard. All the teachers are working hard. But when you have such a high percentage of them not coming to school, it's really difficult. All the work that we do. Trustee, Secretary Potts.
Dr. Edmondson,
I'm sorry to be standing up.
why are students absent?
Boy, that's again what we're going to be working on, because I know there are transportation issues. Yeah, I'm aware of that.
I mean, we know all the possibilities, right? But have we, because the recommendation for, this approach to attendance is based on the poor attendance last year. But did we look at last year's data and find out why students are missing? Is it families that are missing, or do we have some kids from a family here while others are absent? I know we have unique situations where we have older students who have to get their elementary siblings off to school. The reality is that we have kids sometimes who miss because they don't have clean clothes to wear, because they say you can't take a bridge card to a laundromat. So again, it's like, we want to change and prevent this same pattern from continuing to happen, but if we don't know why it's happening, isn't it kind of just a shot in the dark by being punitive when we need to be wrapping around our kids?
So the answer is that's why we have community liaisons in every school. Because they're able to have that conversation that I can't have because I'm the superintendent and people, he's run, essentially, where you have a community liaison who is there we're not trying to arrest any parents. We're not doing that. I am not sending Officer Cofield to anybody's house until you get 9, then you get a citation. We're not sending them there. We're sending people that many of them live in the community. Of the liaisons.
So are the liaisons doing that now?
What's that?
Are the liaisons doing that now? Are they reaching out to students and families now?
Some of them are, but October 2nd is when we really go.
I guess my question is why is the plan developed prior to the data being gathered and the causes being known so that we're matching our strategy and plan to appropriately address the issue?
I would like to add to that. Why is the plan being made, people being hired without board approval of the plan or the people?
Who was not hired under board approval?
These liaisons.
The liaisons?
The liaisons were,
No, we had 2 positions,
We had
one
2
for elementary,
positions.
one for secondary, 2 positions, and they're both still
but
posted.
5 people were hired and
They're
none of
both
them
still
have come to the
posted.
board with the contract or anything.
And they were each, it was 2 positions at about $60,000-ish.
No, I'm just, we're gonna follow, we're gonna talk about the process of attendance, okay? We should know what their 8-hour-a-day job is.
Whose?
The
liaisons.
Liaisons.
Okay.
Because, do they work on attendance for 40 hours?
Well, they're gonna be visiting schools. They're definitely gonna be visiting schools, and they're looking at data as well. There is a job description, and what I said to them is, because I am their direct supervisor, so I'm with them twice a week.
So is this a full-time, a 40-hour position for each liaison?
Yes, this is a
And
40-hour
and what are their
position,
salaries?
And you can check what their salaries are. It should be 60, I believe they're all 60.
The original job posting, which was written.
They had 2
Many-
salaries in their original post.
I
Right,
agree,
one
but
for
also-
elementary and one
But also
for
the criteria
secondary.
was a bachelor's degree,
Right, which was waived.
And it got changed.
and it got changed, and so did the title, which needed to be a new
Well,
job.
there is no, we can keep the title the same. It just doesn't make sense.
But
And
once
it's
you
like attendance agent, that doesn't sound
It,
right.
it's not the
It
title,
needs
it's the
to
problem that there were 2 positions. One
Approved.
handled secondary, approximately 1,000
Well,
students, and
you
one
can-
handled all
you can
elementary.
Make that an issue, okay? Make that an issue, I'm fine with it. I will address that, we can make that an issue. That wasn't the presentation. The presentation is, do we want to address something or not? If you don't want to address it, I'm fine.
Can I ask
We
one
want to
question about
address
the
it,
high school,
but,
though?
we want to address it, but
It's not
how does spending more money on adults who don't have clear job descriptions, at least the board doesn't know, instead of spending resources and time on finding out what our students need?
Let me say this to you. First of all, you're asking me a whole lot right now. Okay, when you've been able to ask me those questions, I've invited you in. You can come and see what we do. Come and sit in a meeting and see what we do. And nobody's sitting there doing nothing, trying to make money off of RTS. Nobody. Nobody.
So getting back to
And
these
I know
numbers.
you're always concerned about salaries. Do you want somebody to be good or not? If you don't want to pay them, then that's okay. You're
Just,
not gonna
we don't know
job.
what they're doing. We weren't told about
What do
this.
you mean? You approved
Okay,
it.
okay.
Yes, we approved 2 positions.
Point of order, point of order, point of order. We're off topic. We're off topic,
We really
okay?
shouldn't stand here.
We're off topic. Okay, so I do have a question about the high school, Dr. Edmondson. Is it, so I see 450 on September 5th. Is that a number that was done for every hour, the students, and that's the average of how many students attended high school that day? As an example, there was 500 first hour. Do we know if first hour is a lacking attendance for the high schoolers, which is really the issue that President, or that Secretary Pyle said? Do we have students that need to have help at home, getting ready, getting there? And then we look at, okay, but their siblings got to school on time. So how do we hold that student? Is 3 absences of first hour an issue, or is 3 whole days an issue?
And those are the conversations that we are having at the high school, because we do know there's a large amount of kids that are tardy that don't come in until second or third.
Okay.
So we're aware of that's an issue. And these are the things that we're problem solving, because we recognize that. Okay, I wouldn't have known it before. I have people that are looking at this data with me and who are in schools to see it. Okay, and they're actually helping on it. We're like, we have a serious tardy problem too. In addition to all this, now we have a tardy problem. So how do you deal with that when there could have been 50 or 60 kids that came in later?
How do you, and again, this is just, we're kind of brainstorming here, but you don't know the answer because you don't know the question. So what is the ability for kids that are missing first hour to have a tutor after school to count for that hour? I mean, we're spending a lot of money on salaries for administration, staff, everything else. Why aren't we implementing something after school to make up for that first hour for students that are habitually late because of issues within their household? If we held one English class, one core curriculum tutoring class every day after school to offset this ticket that the citation that their parents are going to potentially get, why can't we do something like that? Or have you done it and we just aren't aware?
No, I haven't done that yet.
But
No, I mean,
let's give the kids an opportunity to make up that hour.
We talked about Saturday school. Another thing that I talked about was during the holiday, when you have 2 weeks off, maybe we don't have 2 weeks off. Maybe those kids have to come in for a week if you can get the teachers. to do it. Okay? If you-
Yeah.
You know what?
Listen, it's so easy to
The
say.
negative
School
Millie
with a
needs to-
soup.
yeah.
You're gonna have 4 or 5
You can
teachers
barely
that are
get them
willing
there
to do
then.
that. You're passionate about it and say, I will do it.
And you know
But
what?
this is
If it's
something
me
we
getting a
do.
$500 citation, because that's what it was when all of the surprise suddenly happened about 8 years ago, parents were calling me, I just got a $500 ticket. Okay, what'd you do? Didn't send my kid. So a $500 citation is what they got about 8 years ago. And if I'm gonna get a citation, you're gonna go to school.
Yeah, so the thing
That's
that
easy
I-
to say, because,
The thing that I
it's
enjoy
easy for us
about
to
this
say.
is when I actually sit down with the team, we are having these conversations. Okay, we are having these conversations. If I didn't have people hired, I'm having a conversation by myself. It doesn't work. I have people that are just as passionate about what I'm doing and what we can offer. We're not trying to trip any parents up. I'm not trying to trip parents up. But the struggle that I have in my job that I'll say is, I believe that communities expect schools to do everything. I can't do everything. I'm trying the best that I can with the supports that I have, but I can't do everything. In my role or any other role that I've had, I feel like, just throw the kid. The school's got it. I can't, what? I can't do everything. If you want to do something in another district, I'll tell you, I changed the times. I had elementary start first. Well, that became a problem with some parents.
Sure, because nobody's home to get them off the bus.
I mean, you have issues, but I take exception when people say, well, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? We're doing something. And we are a district that actually is doing something. I said it to Wayne Reset, and they were like, wow, somebody's doing something about it. I don't know what to tell you. Listen, I don't mind failing if I fail. But I'm gonna say this, and I do have to say this. My gosh, we get hit every time we wanna have put a position in the district. If you've had a district for 10 years that didn't have staff members or particular, is that what you want? You just want it to be the same way that it's always been? Then you're gonna get the same things. It's just that simple. Dang, if I try, I get beaten over the head for trying something. That's the thing that I take exception for as a person. I worked my tail off with my staff. Maybe it didn't work. I didn't do it the way you wanted me to do it. I'm sorry. I can apologize for that. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna try my best. But you know what? I have best interests of kids at heart. Okay, I have the best interests. I know what school has done for me and my family. I know what it's done. I can't make people get to school. Okay, I can't do it. Okay, now they're babysitting. What do you want me to do? Get them a babysitter now so that I can get them? How am I gonna do that? There's only so much that we can do. I'm not here to fix the ills of a community or of a country. It's not my job. My job is to try to do things that are gonna get kids to make them want to come to school, and we have the resources to do it. I apologize if I only had two. You say that I only had 2 people, and I have 4, but you know what? We ought to have 10. With the problems that we have, we ought to have 10 people. It's that.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry.
With the 4 weeks we've been in school with the attendance liaisons, what has been the feedback from the families that they have contacted, or in the meetings that you've had? What has been like some of the key things that have come up? Babysitting, transportation, didn't wake up, no I'm not uniforms, but no clean clothes. Sorry, I didn't mean to say uniform. Oh, yeah, STEAM, but yes.
You know what? I haven't even been that intentional to even ask. I haven't. I haven't. And I said, because I'm still at the point where I said to them, I want to make sure that I launch this right. And I did say this. I said the first month we're going to be gathering all this data. We're going to have conversations about what we see. I'm reluctant to have, it sounds crazy, but I'm reluctant to have females go to houses. I'm very reluctant about that. So we're still having these conversations about, hey, what's going on? Talking to kids, you're talking to high school kids. Okay, we're looking at this EduClimber that I have tells a good story. Okay, that trips. I looked at a high school senior that has 16 credits, and something is going on now. Every hour, we see that 4th, 5th, and 6th hour, she's gone. Where is she? And I don't know that. So we're having these conversations, and Scott Rourke is showing us more and more and more. We're trying to get comfortable with EduClimber, because that's something. People are learning how to do MyStar. And I feel supported. I felt supported, and I still do feel supported by a Board of Education that allowed me to do this. And what I did, so you blame somebody, you blame me, because I said, we're not going out with our clown suit looking unorganized. We're going to take the time twice a week when we meet, we talk about data, they know where they have to be, they're in schools, they're seeing what's going on. I said, you got to be a familiar face so that people know what you're doing. At the high school, we have a community liaison who's doing nothing but tardies in the afternoon from 11 on. I'm like, her, excuse me. I'm like, man, you can't even get your doggone job done that I want you to do because he's like, there's nobody else to do it. But we have a ton of kids that are signing out before the end of the day.
Who permits them to sign out?
Yeah.
I think you have, if you're 18, you're allowed to do it. Nobody can get away if you're 18.
We have that many 18-year-olds signing out?
We just have issues. We're an urban school
Can you
district.
explain this, the attendance
Do we have
program
that many
that you
already
just mentioned?
18-year-olds who are signing out every day?
You said this,
The 1369?
no.
Only some
Thank
of them are
Thank you.
emergency sheet.
No, EduClimber. I don't
Thank
know
you.
if EduClimber is attendance or not. It's not, it's a data
That'd be
piece,
interesting
or a data system, and it alerts us. It does a lot of things. But what I asked Scott is, I need it to alert us when we have 3 absences, 6 absences. I don't want to use MyStar. I want to be focused on
And that's where you
EduClimber.
identify those students that have those habitual
We are
times.
able to identify, we're able to put notes, okay, able to send an email. Well, you can't send an email. You can put notes of things that you did, because I said I needed the board, and that's what I said specifically. I need the board to see the things that we have done and the things that we are doing. But what I care about, and you've heard me say it before, if you don't launch it correctly, it's not gonna work. So I'm still meeting with people. We're not rushing out.
Have
to
you done
people's houses.
have you done it like a town hall
Yeah.
at the buildings? The principals, have they done a town
I
hall?
was at the high school for a town hall, and I spoke on it. I spoke at that town hall at the high school. Middle school, I don't. I mean, I spoke to middle school kids. It was probably the first day of school, and
What is the
I asked
best-
them about what school readiness is, and they knew what it was.
What is the best percentage of attendance?
I didn't do that. What school has that, based on?
And
the
I'm just
number of
wondering,
students?
since the middle school is under basically new leadership, new management techniques, everything, if that has increased their attendance.
I can't say that. It's too early in terms of being able to say that. But you have this document, and you can actually, please don't mess up the data. But you can.
I'm
you
going
can
in
look
right
at
now,
the
and I'm
things.
putting in my own
Right,
numbers.
you can look at some of these things.
The middle
and
school
be able
code
to-
study.
Down here we have classes.
change that
Down
ownership,
here
they
we
can
have
just look at
the
it and
actual
it's
Just
school.
viewing rights.
I just gave you Rom L, so how I did it, and we can see classes, we can see the teacher.
Oh, and we can see, okay.
I don't do a lot of this. Okay, I let this part go to HR because you have to make decisions, but all I did was sit down here, and you have the same ability. I gave you, I shared it. Hit bar, okay, you can see what's going on. You can see the numbers of students that are actually showing up to that class.
Can I ask a question? So now I see that Barth, Ms. Withy, kindergarten, she now showed.
Now you just took it away.
I know.
No, but she had 17. She didn't reach 17 until a certain date. So what was her enrollment?
Because the kids didn't show up.
Beginning point.
Well, what did she have enrolled on the first day of school? Did she have 12?
Where is she?
Second
The
one.
second one.
So Clevenger and Withy are kindergarten.
Okay.
So now she's got
a total of
17, so
17
now
kids.
Yep.
so on 9/21, her enrollment went to 17, right?
Where's 921?
Yeah.
Jay,
Yeah.
17 kids showed up.
That's how many she's seen.
okay,
Yeah,
but is,
that's-
okay,
But when
17
did
is
she
now
do
her, the yellow column is her enrollment
Yes,
that have,
yes.
okay.
That actually that we see too. So I use all this with the teams so that we can look at this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, now after count day, I don't look at it until February. But it lets me know, and I gave this to the board to have access.
But you should be,
Yeah.
you should, you know, just do a synopsis of it once a month to know if we're losing students.
I have somebody do that for me.
Well, okay, but you said I don't look at it, but you can't, in my eyes, you shouldn't accept that I'm not seeing it until February. What if we've lost 100 kids are
Well,
dropping?
You find out, so I generally don't touch this until after count day, but I have somebody who does that for me. All I have to do is go in here. But I like to do this myself every single day.
Right, now,
Because I
yeah.
want to be able to give you accurate information.
Right.
And also, I've given you the authority to go in and look. And now you can have questions. You can ask me any question you want. I'll try to answer it. the
Why
best
do we
way.
have a split? That is the word, especially in third, fourth.
So, is that a legitimate question?
It's a
you're asking me?
legitimate
Yeah.
question.
So what were the numbers, and then they split to what?
Where are we looking?
12 third graders,
Third, fourth
17
grade split.
fourth graders, total of 29 in the class.
Right there,
Jordan.
Which is Jordan,
Jordan's
which is a
class.
big class,
So
period.
you have 29.
29.
Okay, and the other one had, so you had 17 and 12,
Okay.
that's what it looks like.
Right.
Right.
If you had
And
So
does-
you have 44 third graders.
Right, okay.
Look at, and Jeske.
When you.
Reagan and
enter
Jeske,
third,
line 8,
Actual students 38.
32,
28 of column.
32.
And then we get this.
Right.
So here.
So we
this is
actually
your
have a,
10, 12, 12, 11, 12.
so my question is, and this is all, you know,
I see what
I'm
you're
looking
saying.
I'm looking at class size here. We have 44 third graders. Why wouldn't you create 2 classes of 22? When you've got first grade,
Oh, yeah.
when you've got first graders at 21.
When you. right,
We were
right.
And the
gonna hire
third grade
another
reading,
fourth
and the
grade
third
teacher.
grade reading law is so important at third grade
She
level.
in a split.
And then you've got 48 fourth graders. Why wouldn't you do 24 and 24?
Do you see what she's saying?
See
Ben?
that, Dr. Edmondson?
So
For
it-
third grade,
Third grade is 32 actual students.
32.
And then when you take Jordan's 12, for her, for third grade, there's 44. So we're saying is why wouldn't we split those up where those two
Why don't we
third
have
grade
a third
teachers would
grade
have
class?
22
22.
each.
Wouldn't we need one more teacher?
You see,
But again, we're in the, you
Right.
said it, we are in the market for a quality
And when you
education.
look at your fourth grade, you
I'm not
have,
certain
yeah.
just real fast. I don't know.
48 students, a good classroom is 24.
Yeah, you've got 48.
And then,
Right, because a teacher doesn't know.
Okay, I don't want to explain it. So what you can do is if you have a split, okay, you can always go back and you can do that. You can easily do that. Okay, you can break them back up, you can run it through, and I guess, okay, I haven't looked at these sheets, I'm on the other sheet, so now I'm looking at the sheet. Okay. So you have 44, you split them, you could do 22.
Have they already been
you
split?
should do 22 and 22.
Because,
They're probably not, they may have
But then
started-
you
Okay.
don't have that
they
fourth
probably
grade
started like
class.
that, and that's something where you'll break them up.
Dr. Edmondson, for consideration, what happens especially in elementary level, when you have a K-1 split, or in this case, a 3-4 split, what happens is you have fourth graders who are on the really high end, and you've got third graders on the really low end, so essentially a teacher could have a 3-4 year span of kids.
If it's done correctly, first of all, put the kids that are a little bit above average and the kids that are a little bit below, or if they're below, you put the fourth grade. So if I
Right.
had a lot of third graders that were below. in the
But
fourth
then you're
grade-
teaching according
It's
to
a-
someone's
Then you- yep,
abilities.
and you're separating, yeah.
Where they can go.
It's a philosophy, for sure.
So, Dr. Edmonds, so we have STEAM, and we heard from our students tonight how they feel heard, they feel engaged, and that's one of the benefits of having these small class sizes of 15. So,
So what
would
I
you
would
and
say-
your cabinet consider doing 2 classes of third grade at 22, 24 each?
Well, we can certainly do that, but what I would
And
say.
then hire a new teacher.
And what I would say to everybody is, when you have a teacher's contract, you better follow. You better follow. Because now this is gonna be the standard. The standard is now, because you want that, now we're gonna have 15. Now we're gonna have 15 and get the same results. When you could have had one person who had 30. Not that you wanna have 30. But that's why you have a teacher's contract, because it is clear on what the size is. When you start playing around like this and say, well, let's put 18 and 18, you're gonna run into a problem.
Dr.
And
Edmondson,
what-
they're gonna have this, they're gonna have the same number.
I'm saying in general.
Right, but they're gonna have the same number.
We'll run into.
It would just be all of one grade instead of 2 grades. They'd have the same number, though.
I'm saying.
We need to stay on task.
You gotta be.
Yeah.
Point of order.
I'm
Right.
sorry?
No one looked at that, but thank you.
But Dr. Edmondson, seriously, thank you for this,
Right.
because this is exactly what we need to see. So thank you for getting this set up, thank you for making it a working document, so we get all that data, because too often we'll hear enrollment numbers, which really are meaningless. This is,
And I will add.
Now we can
Just
see it.
2 more things and I'm done. Okay, this information, while you're all feeling some kind of way, that's why we have a one-on-one. We have a one-on-one that I've asked. I've asked to have one-on-ones so that you can bring that up to me here and not here. Okay, and here, it doesn't come off the same way as if you're sitting there, I can sit there, we can walk over to Mr. Brock, we can have civil conversation, but instead, it comes off a little bit different.
But
I'm
we
just
haven't
telling
seen
you how I
this.
receive
We
it.
haven't seen
How I
this
receive it.
back
Well, you
yet.
haven't. If
Oh,
you haven't seen it, that's not my fault. I gave it to you and I said it to you 1 or 2 times. This is what this document is here for. Let me know if you need to know anything about it. We could have it.
Yeah.
Secondly, and I'm going to sit down on this.
I have a question, though. I just wanted to get back on attendance. I know we didn't veered.
Thank you.
Speaking from a parent, board member, perfect attendance, someone that has dealt with count day, someone that deals with attendance, knowing that it's a problem, and I know you said you wanted to launch it properly, and I'm not knocking any of the work that I'm just observing and seeing the document. Somehow I feel like with us not talking to the attendance liaisons, and we're gonna start something October 2nd that's, like, I mean, I get it. Count day is dollars, all of that stuff. Jobs is all of that, but it's also, I mean, our logo, us. We have to take care of our people, find out what's going on. I know you said we're not in the job of finding, oh, do you need a babysitter at 8 a.m. and things of that sort, but it has to be some type of meet in the middle or figure it out. And I feel like the plan is like we're going in like a SWAT team with no master plan. It's like things just all over in a sense, and not knocking the hard work, because I haven't sat in on the meetings and things, but just hearing the information and seeing it as a parent, I'm like, ooh, well, I'm gonna see Judge Oakley quick. And I'm a parent that has my son to school on time, because there are things that come up, and I see it every day working in the school, how parents cannot get their kids to school and there's issues and things like that. So I don't know if there's suggestions, we can have roundtables, we can have town hall, but it has to be something, because this is gonna be a high-flying issue.
Oh, I believe that.
I mean, it already is.
And I appreciate you respecting the fact that it took a long time just to get courts are involved.
Yeah.
People have seen them in the office, they're more passionate than I am, by far. But I just wanna work together, okay? I'm not gonna try to destroy parents, I'm not gonna do that. You know, there are, when I say 40%, that's real. I don't know what else to do, it's real, it's 40%. Okay?
Well-
Everybody has a different story, I'll try to listen to them, but you know what? And
I just feel like if there's communication, if it's not just a parent at home and eating a chicken wing, not caring if their kid goes to school, that's a difference. If we see the repetitiveness from last year, that's what the attendance liaison should be looking at, the trend. Is this something that was still going on? Do we need to talk to these families? I don't know, I'll parking lot that.
I
But-
appreciate that, and I would say to anybody as well. Listen, you can meet, I've invited you to meetings, I'll be glad to continue to invite you to meetings. That's something new. That's something new. I was like, I want you to come to meetings. I want you to see how hard you work, okay?
Well, I'll set
As
up
I
a
said,
one-on-one.
I understand that it's my meeting. If you come, it's my meeting. It certainly is. But I want you to come, and if you have questions, ask. You're a collaborator too. It's not me against you. It can't be. It cannot be. This is something that we all can work on. If you have an idea, I'm open to it.
Well, I do.
This is a hell of a burden for me to carry. And it's on me. It falls on me. I'm like, help me figure it out. Anybody wants to figure it out with me? I'm looking for collaborators. Now, the last thing that I'm gonna say is this. When you read the books that I put on there about bond, okay, about a bond, bonds are passed if the community trusts their board. Not their superintendent. If they trust their board, they will pass that bond. So I'm just saying to us, like us, to be able to work a little bit better, even if we're not gonna go for a bond, okay?
Right.
I think there's things that, I'm tired, you're tired, I'm tired of arguing, all of that stuff, and we don't always do it. But this is an opportunity to meet one-on-one. I've had Eve send multiple emails. We still don't have it. But listen, don't eat me up when you get here. But I'm asking like, look, we can talk about this. I'm open to any ideas. I'm open, okay? This guy here, wherever he is, we're all open. Just talk to us. And I just think there's some civility that we could work a little bit better, and I will own some of it myself. And I always do. If we want to pass this, if it comes out, we gotta work better, at least publicly. Okay, and I think 20 minutes ago could have gone a little bit better than it did. I'll own my part. I'm not waiting for anybody else to own theirs. I'll own my part. I just hope that we can do one-on-ones through Eve. We can meet, want to do two-on-one. I prefer not, but I'll do two-on-ones if two of you want to meet with me. That's fine. Let's collaborate on this stuff. We're all in this together. I fail when you fail, and you fail when I fail.
So can we hold off on the October 2nd, or is that just too much of an ask?
I mean, they're not gonna know. I mean, seriously, a parent would know.
I feel like we just, and I'll schedule a one-on-one. I wasn't trying to come at you, but, I don't know if what time.
Thursday's this meeting, the meeting for this?
I won't be able to make it work.
I can change it.
After 3:30, but, so, yeah, I would definitely like to sit in on the meeting. I do feel like it would need to be pushed back. The only other thing I wanted to say too, listening to you speak about,
Good for you.
Well, it depends if she can't do.
Well,
Yeah.
Thursday, 9 o'clock in the morning is your regular meeting, right? Isn't that what you said?
No, that's Mondays.
Oh, okay. Well, what's Thursday?
Yeah, that's
Thursday's
Government
9
Street,
o'clock
he's
is
talking
the
about his
liaison.
attendance.
oh,
okay.
yeah, I wouldn't be able to make that one, but
Are you gonna be there, Dr. Cheney?
I did want to say too, with the comment about the attendance just goes to that the student is present.
Yeah.
That's a heavy safety concern. If there's a fire drill, anything like that, you
Oh,
don't know
thank
how many
you.
students are in that
Yes,
building. So you
that's a
don't, you
good
can't
point.
account for that. That needs to be
I
changed.
need you to know, as the superintendent, that's my point.
Yeah.
And the state only asks you as a teacher to do one thing. What is that? Attendance.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't even have to give grades. That comes from somebody else. The state says you do attendance, that's your official record. If we're having these kind of problems, and they are historical, so I don't want anybody to say it was under my regime.
No,
No, it's,
No.
I know, I can vouch that it is historical.
it's historical and it's bigger than
historical, and we're
Romulus.
trying to clean it up. So thank you for your support.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Feel great. Going to work, fired up, lost my fantasy football
No.
game.
Thank you, Dr. Edmondson, for this information.
Crushed.
It is historical data. It's not just in Romulus, it's everywhere. So the key is, I think with the liaisons, is the communication, being able to call, like he said, he's gonna get that notification at 3, where we can reach out to the parent, find out, you get another notification at a certain point in time. If a kid is sick, then that school, that principal, that liaison would know, oh, little Johnny was sick, this is why he or she was out. You kind of, it's not taken into account as much, but we just gotta work and get the, communication moving forward, because our children need to be here to learn. And if we have to help them, we have to reach out to the parents. There are some, little baby was sick, and sometimes the kids will come to school, you feel better? I wasn't sick, and they're gonna tell the truth. So we just have to know,
You're all invited, that's all I'll say. If you want to come,
but
just let me know. We'd love to
Thank you for
have you.
that information. Next, we have our,
So I apologize to the board for the action item, the recommended action item, but we had promised, and we should be ADA compliant. We have a young lady here that's in a wheelchair. We have a young girl that's in a wheelchair, and she needs to get to the middle school. And right now, we get her to the middle school, but I don't want to, there's a better way. There's a better way. And so I wanted to get this project done, and I knew that I had to present it. I talked to Bill. We talked about it, and we're like, I will apologize in advance for doing this, but I feel like we need to get it done. It was asked before. I wanted to get it done. And now, with your support, we can get this, what's the name of it? I can't even think of it.
the ADA
Sidewalk, thank you.
sidewalk.
ADA compliant.
Bid Pack 5A.
All the contingencies are in Bid Pack 5A.
Madam President,
Yes.
move that the Board of Education approves the creation of a sidewalk between Romulus Middle School and Wick Elementary School to meet ADA requirements, rationale to be in compliance with ADA requirements, budget implications, contingency money from Bid Pack 5A, exhibits, change order.
Support. We have a motion from David, supported by Wester. Discussion.
Is there money left in 5A?
Absolutely.
He's coming back.
There's still about $74,000
Okay.
in contingency money. And so then you have the information in front of you. We're expecting it with all we have Simone's bid, but with all the mobilization and insurance and oversight to come in under 45, but we could run into something when we're digging.
What would be the completion time? How long?
They're saying that if we can get the change order over, it's done in 3 weeks. And we have to do it now, because you can only pour
Yep.
to a certain time. And then we're gonna leave this young student on the lurch.
Well, I understand that, and we also have to take into consideration our other students leaving here to go to the middle school for extracurricular things. I do have, someone tonight brought up the fact of slush, and are we gonna have elevation enough that this will be able to be plowed and cleared so that students aren't walking through muddy water and different things over to that high school, or over to that middle school?
That is the purpose of why we took it this way. When we went out as a team, and we looked at it. We looked at the elevation going up the hill toward trying to go this way or that way, maybe adding just a crosswalk. So if you look at the actual, I think you have.
Yeah, the
map
diagram is
that
here.
we took it that way because the elevation is consistent.
Mm.
And then we can put in the needed ADA ramps for that across there and across where the, oh my goodness, what are they called? The boulevard over to the middle school. So all those things were taken into consideration. And yes, this is part of we've already, even though it hasn't been approved, we've already put it into our snow plowing and clearing work.
That was what I was gonna
Yep.
ask. In addition to the sidewalk, which I had mentioned just during a board meeting, are we doing anything about the ramps for the stage? Because that is also something that is of an issue for disability. The stages in the elementary do not have any access for disability.
At this time, we are not, but
Okay.
we should address that, and there are some other ADA sidewalks that we need to do for playgrounds and that. But those are where we're looking for the next sinking fund as we have these meetings, to do those things. And that's why I think it's so smart that if we can do a capital bond and put all these things to bed in one, pack, that we'll all feel a lot better about it. I love that the community gave us, the sinking fund, but we're doing this much, and
Yeah.
this much, and everybody, always comes up to me, well, what about this? And what about, well, that's next year's, or that's the year after. So, it's really, I hope the board considers the capital project to really give us a fresh, clean start.
Madam President,
Thank you.
I have a question. And yeah, I mean, this, we need to be in compliance. My question is for Dr. Meese. How is this student currently getting from WIC over to the middle school?
Somebody is helping her. The student is in a wheelchair.
Right.
And she's able to self-propel to some degree, but she also has a person, an independence paraprofessional who works with her and provides assistance. I've not walked the route with them, but I've been in contact with Mr. Niedermeyer, and my understanding is that there aren't any hiccups right now. But it's not ideal.
Yeah,
This is-
we need that, but she is getting there. She's not,
accessing
okay.
all facets of her
Okay,
education
thank you.
right now.
It's just a long walk.
But yeah, we need that.
Mr. Niedermeyer explained it. He said they go out the back, come around here, and then basically they go through the back parking lot to get to the middle school. Right, right.
Madam President,
Yes.
So, Mr. Gardner, so the material, we just got this a few minutes before the meeting. So the material is concrete, not asphalt, correct?
Correct. It'll be, well, there'll be some ADA compliant fiber that they put down. You know, you've seen it as you approach a sidewalk. They have the nodules in that. This will be concrete. It needs to be. And there's obviously, there's gonna be some stone and other things that have to be put in as well. And cutting of curbs and realigning some of the work that we did.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Can I ask one more, I'm sorry, can I ask one more question, President? So if you look at the total price, and maybe this is just Simone, is $38,000, but we're approving $45,000.
There was, and I can answer that for you, this was a rush thing, we wanted to get done, so the full design hasn't been done, the ADA design, and there is insurances, and then there's construction cost for oversight on that as well. So we don't know that it's gonna be 45, it could be less. And the other remaining portion would only be if, let's say we ran into a gas line or something, which we don't anticipate, we've done our site work. But there is still, this is still monies from that bid pack. We've managed it well, even though you've heard it a lot.
Well, right, but I just, again, I'm looking and I don't see that 10% little clause down at the bottom, which thank you very much for taking care of that. But I just want to make sure that we're not saying, okay, we'll pay you $45,000 and you're going to estimate at 38. Are we going to make sure that it comes close to 38 and we're not going to just randomly give them $45,000 because we approved a purchase order?
We will let you know the exact cost.
And I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Davis?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Kennard?
Yes.
Piles, yes. Laster?
Yes.
McCarthy?
Yes.
Wester?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any reports from our subcommittees?
We have set a sinking fund committee meeting. Can't remember what the date is, but it's within the next week. And that's it for right now.
The policy committee will meet again in October. The date is to be determined. I will send out calendar invites to the board as well as our committee members.
Thank you.
Nothing for finance yet.
After the audit.
After the audit. And I think I think the sinking fund and the facilities committee, isn't that the same one, or is that two different meetings?
It's two different.
It's two different, okay, well then there's a set one that we're working on with the facilities. They're the same, that's what I thought, they're the same. The sinking
right.
and the facilities
Facilities.
is the same. Yeah, So that's coming up,
Hmm.
yeah, okay.
All right, report of the board president. I just want to thank all our presentations today. It was very informative, especially with the bond. Thank you, Mr. Brock, for getting that company out here. It was really informational to see how it goes. And I like numbers, but I don't like numbers. But not that part. Dr. Gardner, thank you so much with the TOP team, providing us all that information and all your hard work. For the team as a whole, just thank you for everything you're doing. Dr. Meese, Dr. Edmondson, Eve, thank you for everything you've done, coming aboard to get everything aligned. I just want to say, just like Dr. Edmondson said, we have to communicate, and we have to remember our main focus is our kids. We do have to reach out to our parents, but there's a limit. There's only so much we have to do, but we have to hold our parents accountable as well to make sure that their children are here. Thank you, Dr. Garland, Mr. Garland. I know you got that suit on. You look so good. But no, thank you for all your hard work and making sure that we can, make sure our students can travel from building to building with ease. That's it for me, and communication from board. Trustee Laster.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I do want to thank Dr. Cheney for so eloquently speaking passionately about attendance and providing all the information that you did. I will be scheduling my one-on-one, Dr. Edmondson, and hopefully I can sit in on one of the meetings with the attendance team. I did just want to speak as a community member. Maybe there's a lot of it's not just Romulus. Wayne Westland had about 7 fights at their John Glenn Wayne game. I don't know if there is something where we can make people have to sit in the stands. I know things happen in the stands, but that traffic along the gate and things, it's just something I feel like we need to look at it. I'm trying to stay in board lane, but I'm just bringing it to the table where maybe we can collaborate and something is in the works.
Parents coming with their
So,
kids.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because we had that conversation today on something we'd
Okay.
like to bring up to the board. I mean, I'm gonna be quiet.
It's
I'll
everywhere.
save it. I'll just save it.
Because at
kids can't
another
be
school, they made
unattended.
each school
Unattended.
sit
A
on
lot of kids are
on side with their own concession stand, and still multiple things happen. So it's just don't want to be on the news for.
Not for that.
Right.
I mean, we have a beautiful field. The team is winning. I mean, don't want to be on the news for that. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Evans.
Thank you for all of the information, Dr. Gardner. Eve, always appreciate what you do, sending information out. I do have, and I will be requesting this in writing, but I am going to request a full copy of the budget that was presented to the state at the end of, after our budget hearing, because we don't have a copy of that. And then just for Dennison, Mr. Dennison, did the purchase order get created and approved for the malware that we talked about at the last meeting? That was such an urgency?
Yes. Good.
So it's all done? Yeah, I deployed that. Good job, good job.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you very much. Couple things I will be sending out emails on. Oh, one question. In Mr. Rourke's presentation, he referenced Title I buildings. Which,
Yeah.
well, but it's funding. How many of our buildings are considered Title I? So, okay, I'll be sending out an email about that because Title I, the class sizes should be smaller, correct or incorrect? Okay. Yeah, that's, for some reason, I thought that if you had a Title I class, it had to be under a certain number, so, just wondering.
We got our cell lights, Ursula, we can keep going.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Are you gonna put it in format, please?
I'm sending emails. No, of course I.
Trustee Kennard.
We go a long way, Sue.
No, I'm going to be brief. I just want to thank those who attended today. The information that was provided was very detail-oriented and very, very well receptive. I did make a statement earlier about the TLP team, but I also want the board to know that I went to the the middle school, and had very I got there at the best time of the day, and that was lunchtime. And so I was observing the students there and how well they maneuvered through that whole process and how organized it was, okay? And looking at the different, they had two periods, you know, the lower grade and then the higher grade, and how very well mannered they were. And the good thing about it is that in the beginning of lunch, they have I guess it's a informative meeting where they're reiterating learning. Okay, while they're sitting there and the tables are going. So there's education still being put out there on the screens or whatever. And one thing, we got a board member who said something about their child ate the lunch. The chicken sandwich was real. Well, I want you to know, I didn't see not one student take their lunch and put it in the garbage. They ate it all. They were eating the food. Okay,
That's
so that was
awesome.
a good thing.
That's,
And I said, that is really good. But one thing about it, and I know we had a conversation, Mr. Garland, some years ago about the presentation in terms of that area where they receive the food. To me, it looks bland. I mean, you're walking in this room, and they have the stations with the food, but the room looks like it's not inviting. And I know that in restaurants, they use different colors. You know, color schemes, you know, they got the green and orange, but it does something mentally for behavior in terms of enticing eating and what have you. So I'm just like, okay, that is just too bland. Maybe sometime down the road, because we did have a conversation where I think, I didn't look at the contract in depth with Chartwells, but there was the previous where they were responsible for some type of, you know, things around billboards, you know, something, you know, when you're walking in there, it was pictures and things about nutrition and food and even the room itself. So I think that's something we need to look into and see what can we do, not just at the middle school, but making sure all those areas and all of our schools are inviting, you know. And so that's it.
You weren't gonna mention that you came into my meeting? I'm just
Oh,
saying.
yeah.
I'm just saying. You came in it, I'm just saying. I don't know what else to tell you.
I did attend, and it was nothing planned. And so I did attend that meeting. What meeting was that, your directors? Was it your directors? Directors meeting, and I just quietly sat in the back. And let me tell you, I had the opportunity to see administrators in action, okay? And each one of them, how they collaborated, board, I saw them collaborating, and how they were engaging and presenting different side than you see in the boardroom versus among their peers. And so I had that opportunity of doing that, and it was very, very eventful. And I did step away because I said, well, you know, they might want to discuss some things that they don't want me to hear. So I did leave, but I wanted to thank you very much for that opportunity and allow me to do that. And again, we'll let you know next time ahead of time. But he didn't get mad. He just gave me that body language. There it is.
Thank you. Secretary Piles?
Yeah, so I want to thank Ms. McCarthy for sending us that text about the student and giving us that feedback. That, I mean, the excitement over the chicken sandwich was real chicken, and seriously, you know. And Judy, thank you for saying that you observed the students and nobody was throwing their food away. That's wonderful, because our students, we don't want to just provide food. We want them to enjoy it. We want it to be nutritious. And so that's just really encouraging to hear that from both of you. So thank you. President Wester, if we could please have Chartwells on an October agenda, just to, you know, kind of present what they're doing, what the menu plans are, just because I know we had them come in last minute, not a lot of prep time, but if we can just like hear from them so we know what's going on, find out if they're going to be doing the dinner program, because we are CEP district and we can get 100% funding for that. And our food service company can and should take care of that for us so that our central office staff doesn't have that burden. Dr. Edmondson, thank you for recognizing not just the attendance problem, but that we can't continue doing that, and thank you for that format. That truly is appreciated. And I apologize, like, I'm not coming at you for what you're doing. Our kids are fighting, kids aren't coming to school. Those aren't the problems, those are symptoms of a problem. Kids are hurting. You know, there's a shortage of mental health resources. I know that we've got $107 per student for 2 years in a row. The second year was raised. Like, I guess, I'm not saying ignore it, but I'm saying, could we just look into the data and find out and wrap around our kids to the extent that we can, and encourage them to be here and make Romulus Community Schools a place where students want to be, because these are the lives of children, and just coming at them with just punitive consequences out of adult frustration or a lack of knowing what to do. We've got 2,000 kids here, and every single life saved or lost in our district is going to have a generational impact. And so I'm just hoping that, it's hard, and I don't know the answer either, but if I'm just take care of people first is just, what I always come back to. I did want to talk about the CTE program and the internships. I know SEMCA, Mrs. Funderburg is with SEMCA and has a lot of opportunities for students. Paid internships too, and with certifications they earn at the end. Also, we had a group of students go to the Chamber of Commerce meeting in January, and different businesses in the city offered to give our students paid internships, and then Ms. Funderburg said SEMCA could be the employer of record and provide the money for that. So I'll give you the information, hand that off to you, but I'm glad that we're looking for ways to network our students with the outside world and then give our community opportunity to see what phenomenal students we have at Romulus Community Schools. And thank you for all the presentations. I mean, tonight, the data, the numbers, like that was the meat and potatoes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer Davis?
I keep hearing so much about how the chicken's real now.
We're going to have to come eat lunch, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'll meet you here tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel like I should stop in and have some lunch.
Is it free for us?
I don't know. It was
Actual
long ago.
chicken.
But anyways, I wanted to give a big congratulations to Mr. Niedermeyer and the STEAM Academy on their grand opening. Walking into those classrooms, it was exciting to see all the furniture had wheels on it.
Yeah.
Like, we have furniture that enables collaboration much easier between the students. And, this is probably the first time since elementary school I've been in this media center, and this is amazing. And one thing I wanted to suggest is that, even though we did this and we had a special event, even when we don't have special events, how about once every so often we start having board meetings at our different schools? High school auditorium when it gets finished.
Thank you. Vice President?
Eagle Nation, thank you for going the distance with us. We started with a pack house, and now we're down to 6. Thank you. I just want to point out the update to the logo. I see we went from Eagle Country to Eagle Nation. I love that.
We got another one coming.
Thank you.
You're gonna see it soon enough.
To everyone who gave a presentation today, I appreciate you for doing your due diligence. I know that it is not easy to come before the board with your content and unload it, and sometimes we ask a lot of questions, and you come and you're prepared, so I can appreciate that. Lastly, I want to thank Dr. Edmondson for being proactive and forward-thinking with the attendance policy. However, if we are going to be aggressive with the policy, we need to be aggressive with the type of support that we provide our families. But more to come. I know we will
chat it up on a one-on-one.
Oh, thank you.
That's all I have.
Great.
2-on-1.
Yeah, one, thank you for the technology, Adam. I mean, now I'm excited about that board. I'm like, yeah, we need one. We need one of those, you know. But, I mean, thank you to Kim Calloway, she's not here, for hosting us as well. And to the staunch supporters that are usually here and are still here, really appreciate you very much so. And, you know, there are a few more things that we have planned. I talked to Mike Ellison. We have something dynamite planned. We don't want to tell it, but everybody here is a part of it, and you have to cooperate for us to do it right. It's outstanding what we have planned. So as board members, be ready. You're going to get your call, and we're all going to have to smile and look like we like each other. Just telling you now. It's coming soon, October. Come in, get your head right. and
Like
stuff.
how long do we have
Yep.
it like each other?
And, you know, on the last note for me, I enjoy the banter, I do. I just wish that there are times where we could be a little bit more collaborative, team-like, conscious of our approach toward one another. You know, there are certain triggers that I can say, I certainly have certain triggers. You press the button, and guess what? You're gonna get it. I mean, you're gonna get that trigger back. So I just hope that we're a little bit more mindful on those things and pay attention. People still watch us. They still watch our relationship. And again, if we're gonna talk about a future bond, it is the trust that people have with you, not me. Okay, so just kind of be aware of that. I think a lot of great things are in store for us if we can remain collaborative. If not, they're not gonna happen. That was my mic drop.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
9:22. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
We're not doing 3 presentations ever again.